I mean, we'll see who takes the toll, because being the underdog as well means that you might be nervous. There's the match going in, so let's see.
Yeah,
What the
I
match will
completely
be.
agree with you. There no when you're at the #1 seed and when you're a known player, there's a little bit more to lose, right? You don't want to lose your, your street cred or your reputation, but this is all for good fun. Everyone does want to win, but you
Right.
do want to relax and think calmly about your play. So I think Dave Goblino has that in the bag about being relaxed and cool and collected. So let's see if God Despair has that as well. Let's take a look at the team. We haven't seen too much of God Despair, but everything looking pretty standard in terms of what the meta is currently, or what it's kind of is.
Yeah, running that Grumper, of course, to just deal with these win shenanigans. That way you are able to at least stabilize with your melee heroes. In fact, I would also mention, right, he who wears a crown, his head is heavy. I think I messed up that saying, but you kind of get what I mean, right?
Absolutely.
It's sort of interesting.
In this situation, the crown is the Discord hat.
Exactly. Loser loses the Discord hat. No, but in all seriousness.
Ooh, tournament for some cosmetics coming soon in the future. But there it is, God Despair keeping it pretty standard. The Volderin and the Kinu pairing. How does Dave want to answer this? He has a Kinu, so he needs some pressure there.
I have a strange feeling we might get to an El Clasico, and I did want to point out as well, Dave Goblino running that Cernif. I feel like Dave is actually running that Cernif like most people will run Ise as bad bait, and not necessarily in a bad way. It's just necessarily in a sense. If you look at Dave Goblino's team now, what can he really do with that Cernif? Yes, you have the atypical Wolfie Kinu Cernif, but that's obvious, right? Usually we see way more setup. You usually see way more coverage on top of that Cernif just to make sure the Cernif gets a good game. But in his case, Dave Goblino, his team is perfectly fine basically dealing with most other things. Gayalis and Mix, of course, to cover those mental coverage and doing devastating amounts of damage, of course. The Fire to cover the other nature types. So it's just interesting how Dave runs that Cernif, but it's not the typical thing you would see around the Cernif, so to speak. Sizunch picked up Mix and Wolfie as well. Scunch, the pickup as well for God Despair, going through these drafts really quick. Rise removed from both sides.
Yeah, so very interesting to see the Gialas as the ban there. I understand it, Giala's very strong against the Wolfie, very strong against the Drakash there, and just as strong against a lot of the Thames. The Volderin if it's anaerobic as well, which I believe we saw that in the Swiss rounds, and of course the Mix, so I don't blame Dave there. Sizemunch a little bit scary, but maybe he feels confident with the mental in the Kinu and the Mix. But just like that, we are ready to get started. Quarterfinals of this Plus Weekly Tournament 24 is just getting started. None other than our #1 seed, Dave Goblino, going against God Despair. May or may not be his first top 8 appearance. Correct me if I'm wrong. I apologize to God, but I believe this might be his first top 8 appearance. So let's see if he can handle the pressure and take down Dave Goblino here.
Yeah, I mean, swap out immediately by Dave, not wasting a beat. Kinu swap out to that Mix, of course, setting up to counteract this burst damage. So Beta Burst does come out, actually goes into the Volderin. So straight out of the gate, it looks like God of Despair really wants to do as much damage as possible. Feather Gatling into that Beta Burst, of course, doing solid work. We'll have to see if that's a double Ganger's Brooch, because I'm fairly certain it is a double Ganger's Brooch, and in fact it is. So trading there. But you can clearly see the outmatching of power levels. God of Despair with no attack TVs on his Volderin versus Dave, who most likely has a bit of investment into that attack TV, understanding that Feather Gatling is the most often displayed by the anaerobic Volderin.
Yeah, so God Despair naming his Volderin Fat Daddy, a little bit more tankier there. Unless Dave has a little bit less attack. But taking the Feather Gatling a bit better there. But we'll see. The big difference here is Dave Goblino has an anaerobic bird, and the Fat Daddy here, that's an aerobic bird, as we just saw the increase in speed. So the Mix is a special attacker thanks to Kinu. There's no debuff on special defense just yet. It's just at neutral right now. So the Mix not going to be as crazy, but one Crystal Spike should do a lot. So maybe another double up Crystal Spike plus that Feather Gatling may be enough to close out God of Despair's Voldaren here.
Yeah, what sucks so badly is that there's no good swap out for your God of Despair. Like, what do you really do? Your Kinu is gonna walk into a bluff. Otherwise, Sicer still does some decent damage onto a Kinu, especially on top of a Noxious Bomb. So Dave actually has a lot of contingencies to deal with God of Despair not swapping and attempting an HKS Turbo. Right, that's still possible. You can go Turbo into HKS and potentially get that pick off. But again, not guaranteed either. And if Noxious Bomb follows through and Voldaren survives, you're gonna have a little bit of a problem. Already sacrificing the Kinu. So God of Despair gonna play a little bit more safe, but this is what I'm concerned about because the mix is so oppressive in the situation. So Cypher's gonna be coming in here just to set up a little bit more. Turbo Choreography was applied, so God of Despair was thinking about setting up, but decides against it. Instead, use it to bolster the HP pool of the Kinu, and Crystal Spikes connect on the Size Munch. Feather Gatling gonna be thrown out as well, but it's an attack-based Voldaren. You can see the damage already being dealt there. But Size Munch with Rock Bottom is going to put Mix 6 feet under if Dave is not careful or if the Mix does not have enough TVs to defend itself.
Yeah, so Size Munch, I think that was a really clever play for God of Despair. Gain the turbo onto Size Munch. That makes sure that you no longer need that 3 prior. You essentially always have a 3 prior thanks to that 50% increase in speed. So when Rec is ready, if he wants to do it now, of course, is essentially like getting the melee synergy despite a little bit less damage, of course. But man, Size Munch is not heated up. And a little bit too risky if you ask me with the heat up here. Yeah. Mix is looking ready for energy manip / a size surge. Yeah. And Size Munch cannot handle that, so we could be seeing another swap out here for God.
I think Size Surge is a little bit brave here from the side of Dave Goblino. He knows he's currently outmatched in terms of speed. Size Surge would be way too slow, especially if Rock Bottom drops the Mix to sort of disproportionate levels or even straight up dies. That'd be very, very rough on the side of Dave. Also, you can still revitalize here potentially if Dave decides to flinch, but again, that's up to God of Despair to decide. There are multiple ways to play this. You can swap in the Voldaren again, revitalize the Voldaren, and then move on from there potentially if the Mix does decide to Size Surge on top of a Feather Gatling. And again, because Anaerobic doesn't scale off of speed, the threat stays consistent on Dave's side while it just grows for the side of God of Despair. So swap out does happen. The Kinu comes in so that the Rock Bottom does less damage than accounted for. We'll see if he reads this correctly. Revitalize does come out, as I mentioned, making sure the Size Munch will survive, and he calls the bluff. Uppercut is thrown out, punching the Voldaren, but look at that very little damage produced here. The Size Munch did not heat up, so even though he called a bluff, that was a very strange setup, because if that combo went through and let's assume Mix was in, Size Munch would be dead at the cost of for an uppercut trade. That was
so very interesting indeed. He did the brave play. He did it. He said Dave Goblino does not think I'm keeping the Size Munch in, but didn't go with the heat up. I feel like that was if you're gonna be risky, you had to go for the risky heat up there. But we'll see how it plays out for God here.
Those are gonna be thrown out though, so the committal play not working out. We'll see how he transitions this. Beta Burst's gonna come out here, gonna connect onto the Voldaren, so perhaps was going to be a double up, or at least pressuring that Size Munch spot. HKS, of course, online, but it's not as deadly as it seems, as the Kinu can no longer turbo choreography safely. And God of Despair, he does have HKS, but I'm not sure if you want to awaken an anaerobic Voldaren, especially with +2 special defense. This does not seem like, although it looks like God of Despair technically has tempo with Voldaren being asleep, he doesn't have control because of just really, I wouldn't say half-hearted plays, but they definitely felt like they were trying to do two different things.
Yeah, maybe he does have a game plan in mind. We're just not seeing it just yet. We'll see. He did get here for a reason. So Kinu does come out most likely. Oh, bringing back out the Size Munch. So perhaps trying to get something going with that Size Munch. So Sleeping Voldaren coming out will be replaced with the Mix here. Let's see what Kinu wants. Oh, Kinu stayed in here, so we'll be eating a Noxious Bomb.
Devastating amounts of damage. Stonewall, though, this is the problem. You saw how little damage that Size Munch should do. Rock Bottom is definitely not going to kill the Mix now, and this is the problem. God of Despair had the opportunity, now he's lost it. He does not win a battle of attrition. Dave Goblino, he's gonna build his castle, and God of Despair, he's more like a barbarian, I would say. Again, all of his Tems right now do face check damage, they go brute force, but if you build that castle, even the strongest axe will not pierce through that stone wall. And Mix right now, he's gonna survive a rock bottom, and that is going to be a problem for the side of God of Despair, because even if rock bottom drops the Mix, I don't know, like it does like 63 damage or somewhat, that's still Puppet Master range. So again, Dave now put himself in such a solid position, making Mix very, very tough to deal with here.
Yeah, and Dave has been doing a fantastic job. He recognizes his win condition in his Tems. He says, what Tem is going to be my carry for the majority of my opponent's Tem? And he says it's the Mix here. So Mix is that mental Tem needed. And Crystal into the aerobic bird and the Kinu. So exactly. Yeah, Dave Goblino identifying that Tem beautifully. Mental into Move Flank, Scunch, Size Munch, and Crystal into Kinu and the Fat Daddy Volarin. So well done for Dave Goblino so far.
Yeah, I mean, this is why Mix is almost played in every composition that requires you to deal with these sort of melee Tem. Swap in here for the Wolfie, setting up for that EM to do more damage, but HKS gonna come out. Actually, was on that Kinu spot, so sacrifices that HKS so early and also reduces the defense. The Wolfie takes very little damage. Uppercut is thrown out as well onto that Kinu spot, so gets the pick up on Wolfie. Very good play from the side of God of Despair. Read that Kinu swap in, but EM gonna be thrown out. Tried to call the side smudge rotation out, but God of Despair this time committing bravely to get that solid kill. But of course, again, the problem still persists. Mix is enemy number one, and killing Wolfie is simply just value for Dave, I would say, because now you swap in Kinu and you get another protector buff, and that's exactly what happens here.
Yeah, I mean, hyperkinetic uppercut was directed into the Kinu slot, so God of Despair completely reading that Wolfie swap in there. So well done for God of Despair trying to bring things back. But like you said, Blue, making matters worse. Protector the Kinu coming out, providing another protector buff, of course. That's a +3 defense, +2 special defense mix. So little by little, this mix might be getting out of control.
I mean, you know, like a Hydra, cut off one head, two more take his place. This Mix is that Hydra. Every time another Tem dies, Kinu just swaps in and you have more problems. And unfortunately, only fire can solder those wounds, and there is no fire for God of Despair. Protector buff is going to be applied on the aerobic Volarin just to set up a little bit more. Noxious Bomb going to be thrown out as well. The Kinu will be fine here. It did survive one Noxious Bomb, just above 50% range, but sacrifices one. He reads it perfectly. Dave maximizes Kinu value, and Kinu raises a virtual middle finger to God of Despair. He literally gets 100% value, +5 defense, +4 special defense. This Mix just laughs at the face of danger. This is absolutely monstrous.
And we don't see those too often, but Raid Boss Mix, that is in the house for Dave Goblino. Looking strong. The Mix alone, we said it, pretty much can single-handedly carry Dave to victory here. But let's see, maybe there's a way for God of Despair. Maybe if there was that heat up earlier. But yeah, this Mix is looking huge threat for the entirety of God's team.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of us would agree that when you run these Size Munch, Scunch, Moflan compositions, you want to gimp your opponent's setup like this. And unfortunately, again, God of Despair played a little bit half-heartedly for the first 2 or 3 turns, and that sort of cost him a lot of tempo. Dave sort of just abused the fact that Size Munch wasn't comfortable at all. This anaerobic Volarin isn't set up at all. Remember, it only has +2 speed right now. It's nowhere near that HKS, that kill strike range, to be able to push for more. And Dave has a perfectly set up Mix here. Kinu not feeling safe, and the Volarin neither. Turbo choreography though gonna be applied. He wants to get to that range, and he does get so. Chooses that turbo choreography. HKS gonna be coming out. He overexerts for this. He goes for the Volarin kill. Will not even secure it because that is anaerobic. Maximum special defense, overexerts, will most likely get punished here. Nah, we punish the Kinu instead. It doesn't take it out though, but that's what the anaerobic Volarin is for. Toxic Plume. Fortunately for the Volarin, it is a toxic Tem. It will survive, but the Kinu will not. And that is one more temp down. And now you see the problem. What is a swap in here? I mean, define a good swap in. Size Munch is the best you can get, especially since it still has rock bottom, but I'm not sure how effective that will be.
Yeah, I mean, you could trigger it for sure. That's a +1 speed, so it should be the fastest. Even with mix of energy prio, it should be enough to outspeed that. Damage is damage. You do want to output it there. Will it be enough for the Voldrin though as well? I don't think so. It's half damage. It doesn't have a heat up as well. Yeah, God Despair looking tricky situation so far.
Right, so swaps with the Scunch. So he does want the 3 prio rock bottom, and the mix will be staying in for this. So rock bottom going to be coming out here with a maximum defense mix. We'll see how much damage it does. It still does 40% damage, but the Voldrin survives, which is the biggest problem here. Rock bottom connects, but not for too long. Size Munch is picked up, but at least he puts that glimmer of hope in. Voldrin at 1.6% HP is at a very susceptible range to at least get some decent damage off. But still, Dave gets so much value, HKS, available on this Voldrin, and you have to be faster to even deal with it. Moflank, kind of a force swap in here, but decides on the Voldrin. I do think the Voldrin is one of the only ways you punish the mix with another HKS, but he doesn't have that yet. It did not rest on a turn.
And man, that just goes to show you how freaking strong the Size Munch is. No heat up, +5 defense, and still almost does 50% damage on the mix. That is insane coming out from that Size Munch. Doing as much as he could before going down. But yeah, the Voldrin, Size Munch, the Scunch, and the Moflank, the last remaining temps for God Despair. Is there a glimmer of hope? I think this mix in Gyalis should be enough to wrap things up, because I think God has the kill onto Dave's Vola here.
I mean, theoretically, if the Moflank survives, Execution is a big Hail Mary play. It will deal a roughly minimum 5% damage. So if you just drop the mix, it's just below 40%, Execution will do it. If it's like a 41%, you will execute it, and that is the miracle play here. I think that is the Hail Mary play. Moflank is going to be swapped in here. He has to set up for the Execution, but he doesn't have enough turns. Hopefully, we'll see if that's a Hori Wart or an unnoticed, but the guy will be thrown out here as well. Going to finally pick off the opposing Voldrin. Too slow on the side of Dave Goblino, but that allows for this mix to apply a side surge. But of course, HKS still available on this Voldrin, so he has to kill off one or the other. He picks off the Voldrin now, so it leaves the Moflank Scunch on the field, but Scunch has Savage Suplex, and Moflank, I'm not sure if it's Hori Ward, because then you just need to hold out for one turn. It's unnoticed. Unfortunately, he has to wait 2 turns, God of Despair, before he gets that Execution, so it might be too far-fetched. Trying to kill off Gyalis might be the best play here, and in fact, that is the objective. Goring into Savage Suplex will be the play. EM coming out onto the Scunch! Does not get it a chance to move, and Double Gash will punish the Moflank for the trade, and God of Despair went from Scunch to no Scunch, just like the Mental Tem mix is, just pulls a straight up magic trick. EM connects on the Moflank, drops him below 50% range, and this Gyalis should easily follow up with another devastating blow, and if Moflank doesn't die now, he will die in the next turn.
Yeah, so close. If this Scunch was able to move before that 3 prio energy manip from the mix, maybe there was a shot, perhaps, but no. Dave Goblino closing it out. GG for Dave Goblino, going 1 game up, and it could very well be game. Alright, looks like they're in. I got in on Dave Goblino's side, and he's up a game so far, so God Despair has to try to make some kind of adjustments to turn things around. If not, it will be Dave Goblino moving forward into the semifinals, but there's still a whole game 2 to be played out. But same band so far, I believe. God going with the Cerny onto Dave Goblino, and Dave going with the Raise there.
That is so dirty from Dave. He basically shuts out every potential opening here that could give God of Despair tempo. Dave has to play basically on an equal footing here. I was going to say Mix is literally the best pickup here. It prevents Scunch Mo flank and Side Munch's initial entry, Gyalis is the safest play here. I mean, as it always has been, and both players straight out the gate know exactly what they want to do. God and Spare, no time to wait for words, and Dave Goblino knows exactly what he wants to do. He knows his battle plan, and we'll see who executes better in Game 2.
Yeah, and that will be starting right away. So double protector buff hitting both sides of the board, and Dave Goblino saw how much work the mix did the first game, so going with a similar game plan of course will be pretty good for him. And yeah, similar lineup. The only difference, instead of the move flank here for God Despair, it will be the Grumper. But I think Dave Goblino has the exact same team he drafted the first game. I mean, if it worked for him the game number 1, we'll see if it works for him game number 2. That is what he's thinking.
Alright, so Grumper swap out here for God of Despair. Again, if he wants to push for a win here, he cannot let Dave Goblino set up, and Dave understands this. He's playing straight out the gate. Wolfie swapping is very smart here. Now Grumper is not feeling very well. Double Gash is okay, but definitely looking for that Crystal Bite follow-up. Crystal Spikes as well, sets up for Gyalis damage, but DV into C-Spike shouldn't be enough, and if anything, Gyalis should be faster regardless. Grumper as well, with that Thunder Strike, is going to be devastating. If you Crystal Bite Thunder Strike into that mix spot, the safest swap out, funnily enough, is Gyalis, and Dave's Gyalis is not gonna have a fun time, but it's probably worth its sacrifice in this case.
Well, remember, Grumper also with access to Mud Showers, right? Mud Showers effective into mix and the Gyalis, so if it is indeed that, I'm feeling the Mud Showers a bit more safer. But you know, maybe not needed. If a Gyalis is running close to max attack, as most Gyalises are doing, I'm seeing here, it looks a little bit tankier than most Gyalis, so maybe a couple of special defense TVs. But if it's near, you know, really high attack, 1 Crystal Bite at this percent of HP on the mix, even with a Rock Shield, it should be enough to end that mix for this game.
Right, it looks like God of Despair deciding that he hook kicks the Wolfie instead. The Gambit almost works, but no cigar. Crystal Spikes connects, and DV is gonna follow for sure. Actually, Sandstorm decided instead Gyalis is going to live in that scenario, but Wolfie almost at the tail end of a Gambit here by God of Despair almost pulls it off. Wolfie survives, allows a Plague to come out. He's kind of forced to sharp stab this Wolfie spot, lest he wants Gyalis to be pummeled here. Also, of course, you can still beta burst as Kinu into that Wolfie spot. That is not as bad as well, and then swap out Gyalis perhaps for the Grumper. Again, Grumper is so solid here just for eating hits, but if that is the case, if Dave reads that, of course Gyalis as well would be incredibly problematic in this situation.
Yeah, let's see. So Gyalis does most likely, it is a +2 special defense. I actually didn't catch how much that second Crystal Spike did, but I think it should be enough to close out that remaining 17%. So yeah, Gyalis not feeling too comfortable. Of course, Mix would have to overexert to do so, so maybe God, we saw him play risky before, maybe stays in and wants to go with a good old Crystal Bite. But man, that's a risky play. The risk that he's not willing to take. So bringing out Grumper.
Yeah, as I mentioned, Grumper going to be swapping in here to take that hit. Of course, Plague going to hurt, yes. But Grumper is more than happy to take that for his carry. Gyalis obviously still has all of the buffs applied. Crystal Spikes as well, going to overexert. So if it was a Gyalis, it would have been punished. But Mix is instead the one being punished. And Baybird does come out, God of Despair. I basically predicted the entire round here for God of Despair, and he gets that kill because Dave got greedy. Wolfie is picked off here, and there's a Kinu in the back pocket though, so again, not as bad of a scenario as you would expect. But Grumper now has Earthbreaker as a potential move to eliminate this mix. I mean, Grumper, be it Earth move or an electric move, he does devastating amounts of damage. Gyalis is swapped in though, so he wants to double catch that Grumper before he gets an opportunity to do anything. And I don't think God of Despair can really do anything about that. A bit helpless in this scenario.
Yeah, with the Plague trapping in the Grumper, nowhere to go, and there is nowhere in this world where a Gyalis will ever get outsped from a Grumper, so really good swap in there. Gyalis with a simple double gash should close it out for the Grumper. But God Despair...
Yeah.
bringing up that Size Munch, trying to set it up earlier on. We'll see if he actually gets a heat up this game.
Protector buff applied, and double gash, of course, punishing that Grumper. Size Munch out though, so Rock Bottom available, but Keenan's gonna be swapped in as well. The problem, of course, is still the Beta Burst. The Size Munch, not a big fan of Beta Burst. Of course, God of Despair could Rock Bottom here, but I mean, it's hard to believe, but Rock Bottom is not the answer to every situation. He could attempt a heat up here, could revitalize heat up the Size Munch spot. I think that would be value. Size Munch is most likely not going to die from a Gyalis Beta Burst double up, especially if in between God of Despair's Kinu gets the revitalize off. But it really does come down to speed. Of course, Dave has that speed arrow, so if neither Kinu has even an extra point into speed, it's going to be a bit unfortunate. I mean, potentially, both players have access to Hypnotize as well, but the problem is God of Despair can't really use it. I mean, Gyalis put to sleep once is not going to help because he's going to go faster. If anybody's putting to sleep anything, it's probably going to be Dave with that heat up. But again, Size Munch is quite fast, so
yeah, we'll see. It does depend. I think Dave's Kinu a bit more in the tankier realm, so maybe lacking a bit speed, and Size Munch is just naturally really fast. So we will see. We haven't seen him use Hypno, so perhaps not running it. But you could just go into damage, you know, instead of just sleeping it for a turn. You do forego the heat up for this turn, but maybe you could just get solid Beta Burst damage instead. So yeah, as you said, Blue, there's no set of attacks that will be taking down Size Munch outright this turn. So if there's ever a turn to get the heat up online, I do believe it will be this turn. I'll be surprised if God of Despair doesn't go with the heat up, because it seems rather open so far. You do get punished.
He's swapped into Scunch, so he's going to Rock Bottom here most likely. But the bike connects on the Kinu, so he thought there was going to be a revitalized play, but no heat up! He reads it correctly. He was going to half commit there on Dave's side, and the half commit is read perfectly for the side of God of Despair. Beta Burst does not do enough. This is why I talked about the double with the Size Munch. Probably the best play here for Dave if he wants to shut it down. But now Rock Bottom is going to move mountains. Volerant is forced to swap in here, and Kinu is not going to have a fun time, but he can certainly punish at least the Scunch position here.
Yeah, so we'll see. I mean, Size Munch Wreck, as you said, that is online 100%. If Punch Dog, the Scunch, wants to stay in, that will be with the melee synergy. But you know, I feel like a Kinu swap one more time, buff up this heated up Size Munch, might be a bit more value in the long run. And I think God of Despair doing just that. So Kinu buffing up Size Munch one more time. Let's see. Rock Bottom. No, not going to be catching the Gyalis. Maybe. Alright, the Volderen. Let's see.
Oh no! Oh no! I was going to mention this. If Dave reads this safely, another heat up is potential, and that Size Munch has so many protector buffs on it. He's going to laugh at this Beta Burst. He says, what is that? A tickle? Right now, this Size Munch +4 heat up, it's doing triple damage. He will punch you to another dimension if you are not careful. As Dave Goblino here, Dim Mock doesn't care about your feelings either, protector buff Kinu. You are going to get picked off if you are not careful.
Yeah, so Dave Goblino, thinking the Size Munch Wreck will come out this turn, brought out the best two Temtems on his lineup that can eat the Size Munch Wreck. Because if it was these two in the back line, they will get one shot despite having the protected buff. So it's literally Kinu and Volerant. Those are the only Tems that can live a Size Munch Wreck. But hey, at 3 times damage, at +4 attack, yeah, you gotta save it a little bit down the road. So Scunch may be trying to eat a Beta Burst here.
Absolutely. Hypnosis is going to be thrown out as well. This Kinu is one fast Kinu. Shuts down the Volerant's control as well. Prevents the Beta Burst from hitting the Scunch. Hitting the Size Munch, of course. Sacrificing the Scunch in this position. A very brave choice, as Scunch is never going to live that. But now Volerant is fast asleep, and Gyalis comes in here, does have sharp stats, that has Crystal Bite, but now the important factor here is you can now revitalize Gyalis. You know you're faster than Dave's Kinu, you get a free revitalize here and you Crystal Bite the Kinu spot. I mean, look at what does Dave swap in to a Crystal Bite? Another Gyalis, another mix, especially when you can swap it as Size Munch as God of Despair. It just doesn't sound very pleasing to try and swap in here. I mean, damn if you do, damn if you don't. The Gaialis may be a worthy sacrifice here in his position, but the Gaialis is going to get healed up, which is my bigger concern, at least for Dave Goblino.
Yeah, absolutely, and we have seen it, as we've said, this is a tankier Kinu, so I don't think one Crystal Bite will be going all the way down to 0, but it's going to do a chunk of damage. But I like that play, as you said. But no, the Kinu not going to go with the Revitalize. Will be swapped for Size Munch Wreck. Let's see what he has in mind.
Oh no. Snicks coming out here for the Voloran. The Kinu is still here. Oh no, Dave is red again. The Size Munch is available. He gives no tempo. Both crystals are here. He swaps in. He's swapping into a Crystal Bite. It connects, and as we mentioned, I'm sure Mix and Gaialis, they look and they go, uh-oh, because right now they're facing head on a rock bottom, and the bad news for Dave is that means Gaialis is going to be happy dancing around with a sharp stab still available, with a hook kick still available. He's going to get a free tempo strike.
Exactly.
Now Dave on the back foot, a double swap in here is going to be still a disaster.
Yeah, so man, the double swap there, God Despair reading that perfectly. Didn't think the the Size Munch will replace the Kinu here. So man, if Gaialis learned Cage, this would be a disastrous turn for Dave. But you know, Gaialis is not that OP.
Oh my god, if Gaialis learned Cage,
that would be super disastrous.
I would see Gaialis threads everywhere. Gaialis is OP, nerf him!
Absolutely. But yeah, this is very reasonable. With the Size Munch having that 3 prio, Dave Goblino has to double swap. If not, both of these Tems on the current board are gonna be going down so fast. We blink once and they're already disappeared, because that is a +4 attack Size Munch coming its way.
Yeah, this is such a damn if you do, don't moment. Dave Goblino was forced to swap in the Kinu and the Voloran and pray for dear life. Voloran does swap in, and the Kinu's gonna be swapping in after. That way, the Kinu puts a protector buff on the Voloran. But remember, there's a hook kick available, lined and waiting, primed to strike for the side of God of Despair. So the Kinu buff is gonna be bracing for impact.
Here it is.
Rock bottom. Gonna slam dunk, gonna 3 times double damage. The protector buff drops to half HP. So does Voloran with +1 defense. Hook kick connects as well, and the Voloran dropped to 20%. Dim Mock on lockdown. Sharp stabs as well should secure the kill onto the Kinu for the side of Dave Goblino. Rock bottom doing its job.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, as you said, Dimmak online, this Voloran, it's an anaerobic Voloran, so not the speedy kind. So Dimmak should be enough to clean up the Voloran. And the Gaialis with a sharp stab online, he didn't use it last turn. So yeah, this is looking one more time. God of Despair having the pressure on Dave's side. So Dimmak on Vola, sharp stab on Kinu. It almost feels there's not too much Dave Goblino could do. I mean, you could swap one more time, but you know, back to back swaps, you haven't done anything to God of Despair's board in 3 turns if you do that. So God of Despair coming out to play this game number 2 is looking in his favor as it stands.
Absolutely. I mean, you can't do that again, but a Dim Mock, once again, Dave is in a position where 1 Dim Mock in and 1 sharp stab seals the deal here, surely. Again, Dave's Kinu is on the tanky side, but Gaialis on the attack side with the sharp stabs. I mean, it's not unusual to claim that a single sharp stab will pick up the Kinu here, and surely Dim Mock goes faster than this Voloran. It's just way too straightforward at this point in time here for the side of God of Despair. This is really dire. If, of course, somehow this Size Munch gets dropped, you do have the opportunity to fight back, but Kinu's still in the back pocket. There's still Revitalize available for the side of God of Despair. So Sharp Stabs comes out, and look at that, as mentioned, just shuts down the Kinu. There is no play here. Dim Mock as well, and we're going to end this game with a rock bottom, ladies and gentlemen. Oh my god.
This is epic right here. This is how you make a statement in game number 2. The melee synergy rock bottom. I'm ready for you, Blue. The earth is about to shake. Incoming the biggest Size Munch wreck of this game, of this quarterfinals.
Yeah.
Here it is.
Not the God of Despair for nothing. Rock Bottom connects on 2 Tems, obliterating him out of the game. The Size Munch does its work. Quadruple kill this match. And the game goes the way to God of Despair, who brings it back with 3 amazing reads in a row.
Yeah, honestly, beautifully played for God of Despair, finding himself in, but it's 1 apiece. Anyone can take it. After we saw God of Despair performance, I am not counting him out whatsoever.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, that previous match, it wasn't about the positions even, it was just about the reads. Goblino, God of Despair reading Dave like a book, 3 rounds in a row, getting literally exactly what he wanted. 2 free heat-ups into a tempo-less Size Munch wreck, completely cleared all of the match. It's just absolutely insane.
Yeah, so far game number 3 starting the exact same way as game 1 and game 2. It will be the Cerny ban and the Rise ban for each respective teams. Let's see if Dave wants to change up. He started Keanu Mix the previous turn, and he says, you know what, I kind of needed my Wolfie to take care of this Size Munch, so maybe let's pick it up before it potentially catches a ban. But let's see, so Wolfie eyeing it down, and it does get the first pick, so trying to discourage the Size Munch opening here.
This is quite interesting in a sense. Wolfie gets picked up first. For Dave, he mixes it up. Obviously, Dave has run Keanu both opportunities as it's opening, but decides that it is time for a change of scenery, and I completely understand. Now, with a Wolfie pickup, he leaves a lot more options open than when you open with a Keanu. When you open with a Keanu, you don't want to then follow up with a Wolfie. However, if you open with a Wolfie and you follow with a Keanu, it's actually much better. And the main reason for that is at least when you open with a Wolfie, you can match him with something that deals damage output if you wanted to. Otherwise, you can just pick up the Keanu, secure that Keanu for later, and the Wolfie by itself does do some decent chunk of damage. So God of Despair in a position where there's not a feel good sort of pickup here. Obviously, as feel good as you can get, right? Keanu Gaialis, I mean, Keanu Gaialis is basically the junk food of Temtem. It's comfort food, right? You pick it up when you're not sure, when you're you want something right now. And God of Despair, I mean, if it worked for last time, we'll see if it works for this time.
Yeah, and I mean, it's obviously picked for a reason. It's just such a solid lineup to open into anything pretty much. Gaialis has a lot of coverage with the melee, with the crystal techniques. Well, man, Dave Goblino with the counter pick. He says, you're picking up Gaialis. Let's go pick up something that takes 1/4 damage. He does got to be careful with these hook kicks. That might be coming out turn 2, but he has a lot of pressure for that opening play. Something like a Plague Mud Showers is going to be doing a lot of damage onto Gaialis. And on the other hand, Gaialis just has a simple double gash, and Keanu not too much going for it with that beta burst. So far Dave seemingly has the advantage in that opening turn, but does not tell the whole story, of course.
Yeah, and I did want to point out, I mean, this Gaialis, yes, it does have ×2 damage onto the Wolfie and the Drakash, but please, bear in mind, guys, you can only kill 1 at a time. Gaialis doesn't one-shot anything like it used to be, right? So, Gaialis technically is sort of suffering from sensory overload. He can only do so much in the span of 2 turns. Even if you trade Gaialis for maybe a Wolfie or Drakash, it just doesn't feel good, regardless. So, I don't know how God of Despair wants to play this, per se. I mean, per se, I have no idea how to deal with this opening on the side of Dave, because it's just so oppressive for this Gaialis and this Keanu. And if you swap in the Volrun or maybe the Grumper here, it's still a bit rough. So Dave definitely has the advantage, especially in the opening, but you know, it's all about the reads, and we'll see who gets the better of the other in game 3.
Yeah, exactly right. Game number 3 of our quarterfinals, the last game to go before we head straight into our semifinals. Only one tamer, as we've been saying, will move forward. Is it Dave? Is it God of Despair? We're gonna find out right here. But you know what, Blue? We didn't mention no Size Munch wreck coming out this game. It did get the respect there from that previous game, so it did get the ban from Dave Goblino. And I think with as much work as it's been doing, I think that was a fair ban. So yeah, no Monkey Smash, no Rock Bottom for this game. So let's see what God of Despair has in mind for this game 3.
Exactly. Play connects on the Gyalis as expected. Just a double up will be sufficient. Double gash connects on the Crash. And it sort of tells you the story of this Gyalis' damage output. Now he knows he can one-shot the Crash right here, but don't forget, a hook kick nearly kills Dave Goblino's Wolfie. So we might see a P-jab into a hook kick into that Wolfie spot. Or I dare say we might see a hook kick, a double gash into Drakash, and then perhaps a high Touchi into Wolfie. Either option sounds very, very good here for God of Despair. Of course, you just have to be very careful with your speed, right? Because if Wolfie kills off Gyalis here before you're able to shut it down with Haito, then everything is in vain.
Yeah, and right now the only thing that would outspeed, of course, the Gyalis would be that Plague, as we saw it in the opener there. But if he wants to go for Does Vortex, which will be the kill, that's going to be too prio. So if Skunch is faster than Wolfie, which is very likely, the Hideuchi will do a lot of damage and put it to sleep. And then we just saw how much a simple double gash did. That's over 50%. And Gyalis actually outspeeding Drakash too, so it looks like God of Despair turning what seemed like a bad opening for him around in his favor. So quite impressive. So Drakash will be leaving the board. In comes the mix to try to eat up perhaps another double gash, but we'll see what God of Despair has in mind. Dave Goblino actually going with the double swap.
Yeah, sacrifices a tempo here just to set up the mix for future use.
Such a good read. He crystal bite into the Drakash spot, so knowing Drakash was going to swap out and catches the mix so down, but he puts him in Puppet Master range, so it might actually benefit Dave Goblino here.
Yeah, you need Earthbreaker to deal with this mix. So at this moment, this mix is kind of indestructible, but unlike the previous games, luckily there's only one melee that is accounted for when this mix comes online. And of course, we saw how much Sharpstabs did against Dave's Temp. Theoretically, God of Despair could just Savage Suplex and Sharpstabs this mix, or sorry, this Kinu, remove that from the game, and this mix will have to choose between two options. So God of Despair decides against that. Too risky there. Grumper's gonna swap in, of course, Earthbreaker coming out fairly soon. As long as you get that tempo up, you will be solid. Volarent here most likely gonna be swapped out. No, decides on a Kinu. Just protects the Grumper a little bit more. It's gonna be a slower paced game here, but I'm sure David Goblino is more than happy to play slower. Because the Spikes connects, does 25% damage, not as bad as expected. Beta Burst comes out as well, and Grumper will take brunt force of that, but only drops to 60% HP. So Thunder Strike available. Earthbreaker needs another turn, I believe. So still not available for the Grumper, but Thunder Strike definitely will, and it's going to hurt if. And
I believe Earthbreaker not a AOE, right? I'm pretty sure it's a single target one. So he might need that Electric Storm to close out the remaining mix, but I think it just does neutral damage. Of course, Crystal being resistant, Mental being effective, so just neutral damage. Is it enough for 30? A little bit above 30%? Maybe not. We might be finding out. So Crystal's spike onto Gyalis, so close.
It's not enough. Very smart there, but Electric Storm going to be coming out instead from the Grumper, trying to shock the mix to death, but not quite there. But we saw how much damage it did. Actually, another Electric Storm would seal the deal. Unfortunately, Grumper can't do that twice in a row, but you know what he can do? He can do a lot of damage to this Wolfie. He could potentially push the Wolfie just below hook kick range. Remember, it survives at 1.9% HP. So yes, Gael swaps in to take that, but you're walking straight into a Wolfie here. So, I mean, make the most out of it, I would say, but the Kinu swap in is so deadly here for Dave that it just feels so bad. Like, I would obviously hook kick here if we knew Dave couldn't swap, but we know he has a Kinu in the back. So if Kinu just eats a hook kick into like a Thunder Strike, then you just kind of feel bad as God of Despair. You basically give up your gas all for naught, so he might try to read past what he sees right now, but still, it's so hard because now Dave has two options. It's essentially a battle of which is the better play here, which is the better read.
Yeah, so Giala's, you know, it only has Sharp Stat, but it has to go into Wolfie because of Puppet Master. So as it stands, Dave has the speed right now. A Plague should be enough for 6%. A Crystal Spike definitely enough. You would have to overexert to do so, but both 3 prio moves should be outspeeding Giala's here. So I don't know if we're gonna get the hook kick, because Giala's might go down before we see the hook kick. So I think God of Despair might be thinking of swapping out his Giala's. So I think he is going to be doing just that. Into the Kinu though, if that's a Crystal Spike, the Kinu's going to be taking massive damage.
No, Dave swaps as well actually, so Dave removing that mix from the equation, puts in the Kinu himself, buffing up the Wolfie, so preparing for the worst. Both God of Despair also swaps out the Grumper. We're just going a full rodeo here. Volarant comes in as well to set up for the future here, and Plague finally does come out, so Dave does not waste his turn, at least not for a full tempo. Cuffs on the Kinu is actually quite big, shuts his movement out, but God of Despair now with that Volarant and this Kinu, this Wolfie does not feel like it belongs here. I'm assuming Dave is probably going to swap into the Catch and or Volarant any fairly soonish. Of course, Stonewall perhaps available as well for Dave, but no, decides to swap out again. So just really fast gameplay here. Volarant comes in, both players seemingly knowing what to do here exactly. Plague again comes out, this time with the Volarant to trap it in, just to pick it off down the line. We'll see what God of Despair decides to do here. It is Hypnosis. Puts the Wolfie to sleep, but unfortunately too late there. Too slow in that scenario. But they're gonna come out though. And he sets up for that. Look at that damage output on the Aerobic Volarant. Does not have set up on that Volarant yet for the side of Dave. So HKS going to obliterate this Volarant if it is going to stay in.
Yeah, it is that aerobic, so +1 speed. So yeah, Volarant hasn't set up yet, so something like a HKS Beta Burst could clean out the Vola. And yeah, he's trapped, so of course he's not thinking of making any swaps. He's going full offense here. Beta Burst HKS, Beta Burst Feather Gatling seems like the appropriate line of play for God of Despair. I don't think he has anything else. I'm pretty sure that's pretty much what he should be doing, I believe. If Volarant wants to swap out, I guess maybe a Kinu to try to eat up that damage would be nice.
Yeah, I mean, the Kinu swap in here feels a bit bad, because you trap these two Tems in for a reason. But if you don't do anything about it, God of Despair will get that opportunity soon. This Wolf being out of commission also doesn't help that fact. Grumper, again, very good way to deal with mix. I mean, unlike the previous game, or at least game 1, where the mix was Queen, in this position, God of Despair only has 2 melee Tems, and one of them is a Gaialis. So this mix not as important as in previous games. We'll see what Dave decides to do. It is going to be a Kinu swap in for that sleeping Wolf. He might as well in this scenario. But Turbo Choreography going to be applied here, and HKS may still be sufficient, because now that's a 3-speed HKS, and it does come out. We'll see if that slices this Volarant in half. Actually goes to the Kinu. It deals some damage, but not quite right. And now you've basically put the sacrifice idea into Goblino's head. Feather Gatling trades as well, and this is why I thought HKS maybe on the Volarant might have been better, but really trying to kill for that the Wolfie gamble did not pay off.
Yeah, very interesting. God of Despair most likely reading the Volarant to be swapped out into the Kinu, so was just trying to get good damage onto the Wolfie perhaps, or whatever the Wolfie got replaced with. But he's still solid damage onto Kinu. However, let Dave Goblino get a good Feather Gatling, potentially in the range, but Kinu swapping out, so I don't know if it's going to be enough with just the Volarant for this turn. Let's wait and find out. So Noxious Bomb trying to go into the Kinu, will be going into Drakash. Does solid damage besides half damage, but it does overexert to do so. And this is why Drakash is so bad here, and bad as in really good, because it stops those hypnosis. So Hyperkinetic Strike, is it enough? Absolutely is. So trap the Volarant for good cause, gonna get the confirmed kill. And man,
so I mean, God of Despair there again. This is what happens when you sort of risk it for the biscuit, I would dare say, right? You try and be a bit cheeky. Instead of going for that Volarant kill, you decide to go for another piece. Maybe perhaps the Vulnerable would swap out, but again, that was a guaranteed kill for him, for sure. But because he didn't go for it, it just didn't pay off, and now God of Despair just down basically 2 Tems. Look at God of Despair's team. Gaialis isn't going to be coming in soon. He's out of commission. And right now, Dave still has the Kinu to swap in and potentially raise some stats. The Sarkash not staying in for too long. The problem is if Kinu does swap in here, this Skunch is not going to do much about it. It only has P-Jab right now. None of its abilities are active.
Yeah, we have to see. And you know, 2 turns ago, it looked like God of Despair would be able to take down this Volrun. You know, when we were talking about, you know, potentially Beta Burst HKS to close it out, maybe that was a better line of play looking at it now. But hey, God of Despair chose what he chose, and he has to make it work so far. But yeah, Skunch just hitting the board for the first time. So as you said, the only available move I believe will be that P-Jab. Is it enough for the Drakash? We saw how much a Double Gash did. Double Gash, not the hardest hitting technique. So I'm actually, I wouldn't be surprised if the perfect jab would honestly be enough for Drakash. Oh, but suplex. Wait, it was. Yeah, it came out last turn, of course.
Oh, right. Sorry, my apologies. It did have Savage Suplex. Does get the pick up of Drakash. I mean, I'm sure Dave Goblino also might have forgotten. Gets that Drakash picked off as well. But Volrun now facing the Electric Storm Grumper. And Kinu comes in here to defend. But, again, I keep mentioning this. The Thunderstrike is very scary in this situation. Thunderstrike into Ninja Jutsu might just kill off the Kinu. Or perhaps a Kinu swap in here for God of Despair into that Electric Storm is also an option. Because, yes, it's anaerobic, but Lightning Strike is a Lightning Strike. You have to watch out for those.
Yeah, absolutely. It is +3 special defense, so not going to be connecting as heavy as it would otherwise. It's at +2 defense as well, so Gyalis and Skunch not going to hit as hard. But man, this one is close to call here. I mean, Grumper looking pretty good with that Thunderstrike. Most likely, well, maybe even Electrical Storm could do some good work here. But I feel like you almost want to take down the Kinu. So Kinu gone, the Skunch can be rather free. But the mix in the back line, yeah, this one's so close. I feel so close here in turn 10. Maybe we'll start seeing more momentum in these couple turns. So here's the Kinu buffing up the Grumper. And I think this is fine because Grumper is God of Despair's only AoE. So he needs that AoE to deal with mix in the long run.
Absolutely. Beta Burst comes out here just to do some decent damage. Of course, this Kino on the side of God of Despair will be fine. Barely takes 12% damage. Thunderstrike does come out. He is trying to kill off this Kino ASAP. It gets close, but only serves to overexert the Grumper. And now this Wolfie staring this Grumper down. But a Beta Burst, of course, from the side of God of Despair. He's going to force this Kino out. And Dave is actually losing quite a few tempos, having to juggle around a bit. Did not want his Volrun to die. So God of Despair reading started the same way he lost the Volrun, sacrificing the obvious play for a hindsight play, and in fact he does get that. I'm not gonna lie, a swap out to Skunch is brave, but if you know your Kinu's faster than the other Kinu, that's a very solid positional play. But no, Wolfie gets put to sleep here, and the Grumper will be left to its own devices. Sacrifice does come out. So it makes sure the Wolfie is awakened and def and special defenses are raised. So the the Kinu allowed to get picked up, but the Stonewall as well traded. Very smart play from the side of God of Despair. Takes his time to consolidate his position. But now the Wolfie might actually punish the Grumper here. It did like 50% damage just from base, but it does have +4 special defense, so it might be fine. Electric Storm also, not Electric Storm, but Thunderstrike is now probably going to be the play here. For God of Despair, he has so much advantage with the Skunch still available, and only the mix to deal with it now.
Yeah, it's gonna be rough. I mean, Gyalis and Skunch help with the Wolfie in the backline, but yeah, if he's able to take care of the mix, I think Dave Goblino saving the mix for the very end when he has to deal with the Skunch. But here it is, Revitalize coming out first, keeping the Grumper
100%.
super healthy.
Yeah, 100% HP, times 2 damage on the Grumper. Barely did anything on the Grumper, in fact. Quite devastating there. But the Noxious Bomb, it definitely does everything to the Kinu. Special defense is raised once again. He wants his Boulderman to live as well, just to make sure that it can do more later. Thunderstrike connects. It does very little damage this time. Maximum special defense on this Boulderman is making that visible. But Grumper now out of stamina. Has to rest next turn. And God of Despair could swap in the Scuncher, and in fact he does. Now Mix isn't entirely safe. If Grumper decides next turn to just E-Storm, Dave still can't swap in the Mix. Because there's still a lot of time for a God of Despair to mess around, especially with the Gaela swapping. Gaela swapping is gonna hurt. I believe Ninja Jutsu is available as well for God of Despair. So that could be a play as well. There's Wolfie's +3/+3. But, I mean, we have seen how much Scunch can do even against these high defense Thames. It will do a lot of damage.
Yeah, and we know the Wolfie not the highest in HP. One hook kick doing 99% damage, something crazy like that. 98.5% damage if I remember correctly. So Wolfie, even despite his defensive, not going to be liking these Hideuchi / any melee pressure, even the neutral pressure as well. But I think that's the win con there. You deal with the Wolfie, and I think Grumper can run away with the game, especially as much as it's set up so far. Grumper does have to rest here, or else he's going to be overexerting quite heavily to do anything. But man, this Wolfie at 100%, easier said than done to try to deal with it.
Yeah, this is interesting, because it's not like Dave is in a bad position either, because if the Mix gets in a reality where Grumper is dead, then Mix will have a fun game against this Scunch. The problem here is, of course, the reads. If this Scunch does die right now this turn, God of Despair basically loses his one way to preventing this Wolfie and this Boulderman, in fact, from being able to live long enough, right? If the Scunch has to do damage, bottom line in this scenario. But the Boulderman will be swapped out here for the Mix, which means Wolfie will be taking everything. And now this is my question. Will Wolfie be fine with taking everything to the face? Bush is applied, but E-Storm is a thing. And I think we might just see that Haitouchi is blocked, of course, but Grumper takes a rest. And now, as I mentioned, Electric Storm is available. Haitouchi is not, though, but Ninja Jutsu definitely is. So maybe just try and do as much damage as possible with the Scunch here, with a Savage Suplex, and then move on. But then EM hits so hard.
Yeah, and so that's a nature synergized too. That's a 3-prior move. That's going to be moving first, and at 67.5%, it should be strong enough, especially, as I said, with the nature synergized from the Wolfie. But if the Mix stays in, a Grumper Electrical Storm should be enough to clean up that remaining 13%. You're not going to connect on Wolfie, of course, since it is Team Elusive. And yeah, Wolfie, the biggest problem for God of Despair to overcome, still hanging out at 100% HP. Nicely done last play too, with the Bush going first. The Hideuchi would have been devastating for him. But so far, so good for Dave Goblino. He's looking more in control. In terms of HP, it looks like God of Despair has that. But I think in terms of control, Dave Goblino looking solid so far.
Dave swaps out. Did think that the Grumper would attempt to E-Storm, but decides to Gaela swap in. Wolfie might just decide to Plague, but decides to Sandstorm instead. Also a good choice. Gaealis is forcibly picked off here, but of course Electric Storm does come out. This Bowler is not going to die this. If it can't die to a Thunderstrike, it's not dying in Electric Storm. And the Grumper overexerts as well! That's so big! Now he only has Scotch to do anything here. And remember, Bush is faster.
Yeah, Bush is indeed faster, but Wolfie running out of stamina here, so will only be able to go with one more Bush. Maybe that Bush alone might overexert. It might be very close, but the Volerin might be the one getting targeted here. But with the Grumper overexerting, maybe you bring out Mix, you bait everything going into Wolfie, and then you just pop the Bamboozle with that there. So it still seems like Dave has it in the control seat there. So let's go. Mix brought back out. Puppet Master directs everything to Wolfie.
Suplex.
Oh wait, actually. Suplex goes first. And bless you, Blue.
yeah, Wolfie gets some rest instead. So nothing there. I was just surprised, but no. Regardless, doesn't do anything. But exhaustion is big though. Forces, I mean, which means Bush guarantees overexertion.
Yeah, that's a 50% increase in stamina consumption from the Wolfie, so he has to be careful about this next play. And Grumper back online, E-Storm back online, so you know Dave's been going with the flippy flop so far. Mix Vola, it will be Taz in for the Vola here, maybe trying to eat a Haida Uchi.
Dave swaps in the eat the ninja jutsu, so the Wolfie will not be taking that one. That is so big because E-Storm is going to be the way to go here. Of course, Discussion is going to be dead. Oh no, the Grumper has to mono a Wolfie, and there's just nothing a Grumper can do there. E-Storm even overexerts the Grumper, so the Force Ninja Jutsu ends up being God Despairs' Denmai, secures the kill. Grumper overexerts as well. Yes. So there's just nothing left here.
Yeah, such a close game. Literally going down to the final 2 attempts, but Grumper running out of stamina. Wolfie already recharged. Let's see how much this plague does. Okay, so it's still going to be 3 plagues. So 1 more after this. Oh, but look at that stamina. Is there a chance? Actually, Blue, as you said, there's not too much Grumper could do. A Mud Showers maybe does a little bit, but there it is. Dave Goblino with his Discord hat of Mr. Rishi. I will be spectating from his corner to start it off. Let's see what these guys... I don't really remember what both of these guys brought, but yeah, Mr. Rishi, we are in as well. Good luck and have fun to both of you guys.
Yeah. 2 monsters, both of these players renowned for being excellent at their fields. Of course, we'll see what they brought to the table. I keep mentioning, I love Lawali in this meta. I mean, I've always been a big advocate for Lawali being pushed into the meta. Of course, back in the day, it was just the fact of the matter that you know, if it doesn't heat up, or if it can't smack you, or if it isn't crystal, you don't pick it up. So obviously the meta is way more diverse nowadays. So Lawali and this sort of picked it. Maybe chosen, but not this time, of course. Size Munch on the side of Marnefarmer and Pig Epic.
Nice.
Actually, Pig Epic.
I really like those team build decisions where you have Size Munch and Nagais to work with. So 2 really good temps. But hey, Mr. Rishi respecting the Nagais a bit more will be the first ban. What does Marnie have? He's not a big fan of playing against Rise. I played him myself. He banned my Rise too, so might be banning Mr. Rishi, but the Cerny also a huge threat.
I mean, we've all seen the copy pastas, so I'm sure Marnie taking his time to figure this out. But yeah, remove the Cerny. I mean, in all seriousness, Cerny is such a strong component. So even if you know, even if all the memes, you know, moving to turn 30, if it wins you the game, it wins you the game, right?
Exactly.
I mean, we're here to win, not to you know, discredit these compositions. But I do want to point out something. I'm actually falling out of love with Naga Issei at this point in time, just because a lot of the time some of these players run it as ban bait, and yes, even if it does go through, it does sometimes do some effective work. But if a player can effectively call your bluff with Naga Issei, and you have your team does not commit very well into it, you suddenly find yourself in a disastrous spot where suddenly you just have a Naga Issei that is just here in name rather than in spirit, right? I mean, just like you know, if I could borrow a Dota phrase, right? Sometimes the threat is greater than the actual execution, and I feel like Naga Issei is described that way perfectly. I feel like the threat of Deceit Aura is just way bigger than the actual Naga Issei when it does come to life. But again, I mean, perhaps just the thought of Deceit Aura is just way too much for some of the players, and they'd rather have a more straightforward game. Allowing that Rise pickup as well for Rishi. So I mean, all power to both players. We'll see how they go about this.
Yeah, beautifully said. Yeah, Naga is not looking so good. We had him really high rated in the tier list, but lately kind of falling out of favor a bit. So yeah, it could just be more the threat rather than what it actually brings to the table in terms of that damage output slash value gone throughout the match. But Rishi going with the Rays of Wolfie, so the Rays will be played this game. And Marnefarmer going with the Gialas just for the Wolfie there, but it might be a bit dangerous with the Rays as well.
That's incredibly brave because Marnie has two ways to turbo, which is Kinu and Pig Epic, and I'm not sure if he runs turbo at all from the side of Marnefarmer. If you look at his team, he does not run a Bulleren, which leads you to believe that there is no turbo choreography on Marnie's Farmer, because why would you, right? You don't have the wind synergy, so it's a glorified anti-Rise at this point, and Rise coming in is literally faster than turbo choreography. So I'm not sure how Marty's going to deal with this. Gyalis is not going to have a fun time here. Allowing Rise through definitely punishes this, allows this punish, of course, but it's not the end of the world. It's just the fact that if Rishi gets his way, the longer this game goes, the more of a steep hill this becomes to climb for Marnefarmer. Of course, Size Munch, a good way to flatten the curve, quite literally.
Oh, yeah.
But still, if yeah.
I was just especially against both of these double fires, that is a Earth headed their way, and we know how devastating that Size Munch wreck can be. So solid pickup, and here I believe the pig does have access to Sharp Brain. I don't know if Marnefarmer's pig has access, but just overall it does. So
yeah.
2 fire Temtems, good pickup so far for Marnefarm with the pig, but Mr. Rishi closing it out the way he loves it. Gyalis Kinu adds his last picks. Marnefarmer with the decision, 2-Vine or Grumper. 2-Vine into hook kick, double fire. I think we're taking the Grumper, right?
Yeah, I was about to say, picking up 2-Vine is a bit suicidal here, but of course, if Marty did pick it up, you know, what do I know? Regardless, Gyalis Wolfie opening here versus the Rise Wolfie. I love Rise in the opening. It's such a good temp. One of the only net negative temps in the game, showing why it is the boss, especially in the turn 1 tempos. Rise very good at sort of stopping these brute force openings that just decide to wreck your face. Because in this case, Rishi actually has enough to Fire Flame Plague the Gyalis and then straight into a DV another Fire Flame, and perhaps this Gyalis is not that safe. Of course, all theoretical, because if you die with your Rise, then that's a very big loss for Rishi.
Yeah, so I'm thinking both of the game plans for Mr. Rishi and Marnefarmer, they want to trap in, you know, Mr. Rishi wants to trap in Gyalis, but actually with Resistance, you're not going to be able to. But I know Marnie wants to trap in the Raise turn 1 so that he can get a huge Dust Vortex turn 2. But for the Gyalis, I wonder if it stays in just for the double gash. But is Mr. Rishi swapping the Wolfie to buff up the Raise? Very unexpected if you ask me. Good play though so far.
Oh, that's an interesting swap in. So the Kinu comes in just to buff up the Rise. I don't actually blame him for doing so. Grease does eat that, and so does double cash. This Kinu just took a full read to the face. Embers on the Gyalis, of course, not going to do much because of that resistance, but that was an insane read by Rishi. Eats everything. Rise gets a free pass, and he basically made bail here. You can swap a Gyalis Kinu for free for Rishi. Well, for free is a strong term, but you definitely are perfectly fine swapping in, right? Because Kinu's spot could swap into Gyalis, and the Kinus could come in where the Rise spot is. And if Marnie reads wrong once again, then Rishi would have that duo primed and ready. Although Kinu's on the field already, what am I saying? But the Gyalis can swap in here. And of course, Drakash as well. Perhaps if you wanted to do so.
Maybe the Wolfie comes out, but Marnie could maybe read it. Hook kick into the Rise spot doesn't seem all that bad. It does decent damage to Drakash, Wolfie, Gyalis. Those are the only 3 in the back line, so it seems rather open right there for a hook kick, and you do solid neutral damage into Raise. But I see the game plan. Marnie wanted to plague the Wolfie, trap it in, double gash it this turn, and then come through with a hook kick the turn 2. But Mr. Rishi seeing that from a mile away, of course, making that appropriate read into Kinu. But turn 2, this one's where it gets a bit more serious. Marnefarmer does Vortex is online. Of course, the Gyalis with everything else online. Crystal Bite, Hook Kick, Sharp Stab, that is available for it. So Kinu, not feeling too safe, but neither is this Rise. Hook Kick into Dust Vortex will take care of the Rise.
This position is I would definitely say Rishi has the favor here, at least in terms of what is this like the feel good plays here. I mean, he saw how much faster he is. Again, he can afford to Fire Flame the Guile spot again like this. He doesn't lose anything from it. The Marnefarmer being slowed down is so precious here, but Rishi decides for there's cash swap, and as mentioned, just trying to get a better setup here. Hypnosis does come out, throws it out, probably on the Wolfie, and it does do so. Hooky comes out as well. His cash is red, but that's not a big loss because your cash can Hellfire right now, especially with a Rise swap in to slow down the Gaialis once again for further use. And also, we see that Gaialis is not that fast. I mean, if your cash has any form of a little bit of TV bonus, and if it can, fingers crossed, survive a Sharp Stabs, then Hellfire is going to hurt.
Yeah, it could survive a Sharp Stab, but the question, can it survive a double gash? I don't think so. We saw how much the hook kick did. So double gash, even with the Hellfire, with the 3 prio synergy, I don't think that's enough for 77% on the Ymir. So it seems like a double gash heading its direction. Kinu's already on the board, so you can't make that swap out. Man, I do agree with the raise, slow things down even further. But we will have to see.
Like, I mean, we could swap. Drakash swap in for Gaialis and then Rise for the Kinu is also a possible a choice here, and then swap out the Rise for the Kinu, and then you get that solid setup for Rishi. But again, that's when you want to play slow. Obviously, Marnefarmer with that damage output is not going to let him, but decides to swap in Wolfie actually to come in with this Drakash, and Drakash stays in. Sharp Stab to awaken Wolfie. That is a very smart play, but I'm not sure how effective that will be. We'll have to see because Hellfire connects on the Gaialis. It does some decent damage, but Sandstorm does some work as well. The Drakash will be traded for that. And was not confident with the Sharp Stab damage on the Drakash, but was confident that Sandstorm would kill. So a very smart play from the side of Marnefarmer, but I wonder if Rishi read that because he swapped in Wolfie.
Yeah, I think he definitely had that in mind because Marnefarmer was counting for that with the Fire Synergize. So he went for Sandstorm, effective into Rise, effective into Drakash. That's what Marnefarmer had. So instead of just trying to do damage into the Drakash, why not do it into both of the Tems? But Mr. Rishi, as you said, I believe did catch wind of it. Brings in the Wolfie, so takes no damage from Sandstorm. And well done, Mr. Rishi.
Yeah, I tell you what, if I was playing in Rishi's position, I would have lost by now. Sandstorm would have connected on both my fire teams. I would have died. So, besides that fact, Marnefarmer did the excellent play, and Rishi read that. I didn't even consider it. It's such an insane play to do. But when you know every opportunity, especially if you've experienced it yourself, you will account for it. And Rishi, again, reads it correctly. Kinu, Wolfie on this field. Dust Vortex will be faster than Gaialis, of course. And this Kinu can swap in for the Rise. DV is still available for Marnie though, so might not be all too confident with the Rise swap in yet. So might just attempt to stonewall the Kinu. Stonewalling Kinu should be okay here. Yeah, Gaialis has to swap out. There's no way Gaialis stays in here. DV is such a big threat that it's going to go down if it stays in.
It seems like a solid, a safe switch, of course, is always that Pigapet, but Gaialis stays in, eats the Plague all the way down to 0, not even able to get off anything.
Yeah, unfortunately, again, just way too slow. This is what happens when you're -1 in a Gaialis with no speed crawl. Stonewall does come out, as mentioned, as the Wolfie takes that. Of course, the Wolfie is trapped. Allows the Seisman swap in, but, I mean, Kinu and a Wolfie walk into a bar. The Seisman's not going to be very happy with this entry.
The Seisman's left out the back door, for sure.
Yeah, exactly. Behind the counter, out the back door. The Pig Epic has to be probably the best swap in here. Of course, it's a Grumper, but you don't want to really eat a Plague Beta Burst. They both do full damage onto the Grumper with no setup as well. It's gonna suck watching connecting that. So Pig Epic, funnily enough, Pig Epic is literally the best choice here, at least as far as I can see for Marnefarmer. Losing the Gaialis is so big because you lose that rock bottom synergy. So Rise's influence is felt even more. Side does come in.
So the
Very brave
mind
choice from
games,
Marnefarmer.
here's the mind games for sure, saying there's no way you're bringing in Size Munch, you're not gonna heat up in my face. Will Mr. Rishi just play it straightforward, Beta Burst Plague into the Size Munch spot? Because that's obviously, you know, the standard straightforward play to really punish the Size Munch.
Right.
And there's not too much in the back line that wants to eat that as well. I mean, the Pigapec, which we thought was going to be the swap in there. Oh, the Size Munch stayed in.
Yeah, he does stay in. Plague does connect. So, again, Marnie calling a bluff. Playing a bluff he doesn't have. Cages the Size Munch. Uppercut does connect on the Wolfie, but it just stonewalled. Bear in mind, there's just way too many defenses. That uppercut was going for the stars, and it only reaches nothing. Hits air. Wolfie connects as well with a Plague, but again, Stonewall is what's causing this. Surely he saw the Wolfie at +3 defense. There's no way rock bottom kills either, especially not now. Uppercut only did roughly 20% damage. Size Munch Wreck is Earth and is neutral, which is most likely going to do even less. So the Size Munch.
You know what he can do, Blue? Dim Mac. Dim Mac is very close to 33%. I actually do think is enough, and Dim Mac does not care about your +3 defense. It's just pure 80 flat damage, and I think the Wolfie might be going down. I think that's the final way you can do. I do think it's online, especially after he just did an uppercut this turn.
Yeah, but the problem here is that you still have Chaos in the back. It's so concerning. Big Epic does come in. Boosh does apply. In fact, it goes faster than Size Munch Wreck, perhaps. Hopefully that wasn't the case. It wasn't uppercut, so it wasn't Size Munch Wreck. But that allows Beta Burst. This just kills the Size Munch. There's actually nothing here. The Size Munch just dies, surely. This Beta Burst kills. So Marty just loses his Size Munch for 0 trade. He gets nothing out of that Size Munch's output. I mean, much less a Gambit, and more so a brutal blunder.
Yeah, so far so good for Mr. Rishi. These two Tems alone, he hasn't swapped out in about 2 to 3 turns and just doing so much. We see the game plan coming out for Mr. Rishi. Buff up the Wolfie because that is his win con, and that is what he's been doing this whole time. Taking down the Gialis, taking down the Size Munch, and his Grumper is next target for Mr. Rishi. It might be looking like dinner time for this Wolfie one more time.
This is troublesome, incredibly troublesome. There's still one more Plague in the Wolfie, most likely. Of course, even if there isn't, the Kinu can overexert to revitalize. But Rishi decides against that, wants to play it more straightforward. Rises come out just to control the Grumper and the Pig Epic a little bit more. Hypnosis thrown out as well. The Kinu is so fast. People with their fast Kinus definitely making their voices heard. Windburst connects on the Rise. But the Rise has done its duty. The Grumper is asleep, so Wolfie can come in again with full stamina. Or the Kinu can swap out for the Gialis and say hi to the Grumper once it wakes up.
Exactly, and I think that's exactly what Mr. Rishi has in mind. I think the Gialis for the Kinu would be a perfect swap. As soon as the Grumper wakes up, a hook kick will be finding him straight to him. We will see though, because he has to double up, so maybe... because I don't think a hook kick will kill from 100%, so it has to get a little bit more damage going. But the Pig... Oh, but wait, the demoralize on the Pig, so these bamboozles might not be too much of a problem for a speedy Tem like Gialis.
Yeah, this is, The Pig Epic here will most likely bamboozle to just protect the Grumper, but I'm not sure how effective Grumper will be. In fact, Fart Tornado goes before the Pig Epic at all, so Fart Tornado does a decent chunk, but luckily it's a pig, so it does little. Stonewall comes out instead of a bamboozle on the Pig Epic itself. Wow, talk about self-preservation. The Grumper is just basically sacked here for Marty.
Yeah, not too bad. So Stonewall does connect. I think the Pig might be the last saving grace, right? The Pig, if it does have Sharp Rain, that's how you deal with Rays. If it has Oshi Dashi, that's how you deal with the Wolfie / the Gialis a bit. So Pig, I do understand keeping it safe with that Stonewall. We'll see how it ends up playing out for him. But now the Grumper's awake. The Grumper does have Mud Showers, and it is effective into both of the, Mr. Rishi's Tem. The only question though is how fast is it? It's at -1 speed. If we thought Grumper was slow already, this is 33%. It's even slower, so it's looking rough for this Grumper. Hook kick.
Yeah, hook kick connects. Ooh. Very tanky Grumper. Only does drop to half damage and Windburst throws out. And I did want to point that out. Already 2 out of the 4 of this tech of this Pig Epic revealed. Electric Storm connects but also does no damage. This is such a slow crawl. Inductor of course comes out. Technically speaking, if Grumper inducts at least 2 more times, he actually heals just above hook kick damage. So he'll live another one. But of course, Rishi probably won't allow that. Earthbreaker is online though, so maybe Grumper probably kicks the Rise away at least temporarily. Kinu swap in feels basically undeniable.
Yeah, I wonder if he just did Electric Storm trying to catch a Kinu or something. But man, Marnefarmer failing a bit angle this time.
Yeah.
So let's get into it. Game number 2 of our semifinals. Marnefarmer on the back foot a bit there against Mr. Rishi. He is up 1 game as we said. So he wants to try to bring things back. Can he do it? It might be done here in game number 2. But same bands is looking like so far. Mr. Rishi going with the Nagais, and Marnefarmer did go with the Cerneep that first game. So sticking with that same exact band.
Interesting there from Marnefarmer. Again, in the previous game, the damage output for Marnefarmer was the Gaialis and Sidrus. Now, that isn't really a bad thing necessarily if those are your 2 damage output. I mean, Seismunch is basically Gaialis. Gaialis' better like brother essentially. And Gaialis himself is just as good anyway. But of course, with Rishi having 2 fire Tems, makes it incredibly difficult for Marnefarmer to really put them into good use, just for this from the Rise control and the Drakash's Hellfire. And it boils down to those first couple of reads, and also losing that size punch for basically nothing. Bear in mind, remember that uppercut hit nothing. His I believe the main uppercut as well didn't do enough damage to even threaten the Wolfie too much. So again, it comes down to how safely he plays the size punch and the Gaialis this time, I guess, if those are the pickups. But Marty's brave. He says, pick your fire Tems, I dare you. Opens with a 2-1, of course, is unaffected by Rise. But I don't think Rishi cares. And yeah, exactly the same opening.
Yeah, the exact same opening. It worked once, you know, it is not broke. Don't change it or don't fix it. But Marnefarmer going with a little different here. So starting off with the 2-Vine, that was not picked up the whole time. Was it the double crystal lead? You know, 2-Vine a pretty good counter to Rise, only in terms of the trait, not directly in terms of the typing. But with that determined trait, you can't slow it down. So that might be a potential way to work around this Rise. But there it is, the Wolfie just trying to soak away the Rise for that second turn with things like Does Vortex. So very interesting opening so far.
I will say that is the bravest 2-Vine I've ever seen in my life. It is going to get, if it gets caged in, Marnie is going to be again in a position where your damage is gone. But of course, this time Marty gets a choice to run triple DPS with the 2-Vine, Gaialis and Seismunch. Of course, that's very, very feasible, especially against double fire, because that size is just so devastating. But the size of the pig, I wouldn't be surprised if he picked up Gaialis or Seismunch and then the Gaialis instead. I mean, Grumper does not do much here. Actually, as I say that, he did let the Ukama through, which leads me to believe that Grumper is like kind of forced. If you let Ukama through, Ukama still picked up. Rishi doesn't care. I was going to say Grumper really just scares off Ukama, but no, I mean Ukama apparently does not fear death. Oh wow!
And yeah, we might see the power of Ukama. We haven't been seeing it too much in the recent tournaments, but Ukama didn't really go nowhere. Of course, the Plagues, of course, the Cerneeps kind of has it a bit, you know, hidden in a corner a bit. but he's coming out to play here in our semifinals game. Let's see how much work it does do. But the last pickup for Marnefarmer will be the size munch, so let's see if he'll carry that to success. Mr. Rishi head to head against Marnefarmer, and it's game point for Mr. Rishi. Let's see if he closes it out, or Marnefarmer, as he tends to do, bringing things back around. But let's focus up on that opening turn.
Yeah, Marnefarmer with the 2-vine opening, again, just to prevent this Rise's effectivity. But this 2-vine has to be more than just a gimmick, because as we saw previously, the Size Munch was a bit of a gimmick in his team. Feather Gatling, of course. Feather Gatling playing into the Rise would be devastating, but if Rishi just decides to play the 2-vine and the 2-vine stays in, this 2-vine is going to most likely crumble. If I'm being honest, the Crash swap in or the Gayal swap in into a hook kick DV will kill the 2-vine outright. So yeah, it's just a matter of how Marnie decides to play this.
Yeah, and it was stated earlier, Wolfie lacking in that defensive department, so something like a Feather Gatling Plague onto the Wolfie here might be doing a handful of damage as well. So a couple options as this opener for Marnefarmer. Mr. Rishi could leave the Raisin, just go with a solid Embers, as you said, Plague Embers onto 2-vine, trying to take it down as soon as he can. But Barney might be gunning down Wolfie, since Wolfie did so much work against his team. I think that's the game plan. But as you said, Blue, the Gialis to set up that hook kick online. Oh, Rishi going for the Wolfie.
Oh, actually no. This does make sense. I will explain later. Feather Gatling gonna be thrown out onto the Wolfie spot for the side of Rishi. Marnie trying to push through, and it looks like it'll be a Wolfie action. But we see which is the faster Wolfie here, and the main reason for this, actually, from the side of Rishi, is that technically speaking, if we just let this 2-vine live, what does 2-vine do against 2 fires? I mean,
yeah, I mean, maybe a little Feather Gatling here and there, a little tickle. But yeah, especially against Edger Cash, will be getting taken care of rather quickly. But hey, in this opening, he has the potential for a Feather Gatling to close out the Wolfie there. I think it did do 30% damage.
Yeah, but the problem is this Wolfie will get played off first, so you can trap in the 2-vine. You kill off the Wolfie, you give a free swap in to the Rise again. And that is the biggest danger, is that if Hook Kick connects, kills off the Wolfie, Plague connects on the 2-vine, and the 2-vine is trapped as well, you're hell in a cell with a Fire Temp, which is kind of fitting.
Yeah, and that's not where you want to be. A little bit too hot, and that's exactly what Mr. Rishi has in mind. Gonna be plaguing the 2-vine, trying to handcuff it. Can't be swapped out for the next 2 turns, but the hook kick straight into the Wolfie, taking it down. No more Wolfie for Marnefarmer, but the Feather Gatling does clean up the Wolfie. But that's almost worse for Marnefarmer, right?
Exactly. Yeah, this is I wouldn't say so much worse, but it is less than ideal. Basically, he's played into Rishi's plan. I mean, it's not wrong to assume that Rishi planned this out. At least this was his ideal scenario if Martin decided to go head-on-head battle, right? I mean, it's like 2 knights jousting each other. One of them is going to flinch, but neither flinched, but Rishi just has the better spearhead, and he makes it work. Now, again, Marnie is probably thinking what he wants to swap in here. Size swap in doesn't feel good, because Rishi could swap in Ukama. Ukama's perfectly fine against the 2-vine. You Water Cannon Crystal Bite into 2-vine, and he's gonna feel bad. And then you set up for the Aquatic Whirlwind down the line. Against the size is perfectly reasonable as well. With no synergy bonus as well, there's odds that Ukama Aquatic Whirlwind is going to go first, and that's going to sting.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm thinking for Marnefarmer, the best line right now. I'm thinking that Grumper, right? Grumper with the Thunder Strike onto Ukama. It has Mud Showers for both the Fires and the Gialis. Hook Kick is not online, so Grumper not directly threatened for this turn. So Grumper looking like the pick there. Pig a little bit too passive, only going to be online with the Wind Burst. But maybe you want that Sharp Rain, the 2-hold move, to expedite it a bit. So maybe you bring out the Pig to try to get that online ASAP.
There you go. Marnefarmer reads it, as you mentioned. Plus, I mean, Ukama was the best play here for Rishi. So Marnie, reading that in kind, chooses the Grumper. But of course, it's not insane to say really to just water cannon the 2-Vine regardless. If you can kill off this, well, I did mention, right, that technically you can leave this 2-Vine alone for a hot minute, but you can't underestimate it, of course. CPG is monstrous in its own right, so you might need to keep Ukama later as well for the size munch here from Marnefarmer. It is just a bit rough.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's definitely not out of this, especially since even with that decent trade, now that Grumper is here and Rishi got red, the attempt at 2-Vine's life is very minimal. But by very minimal, I mean at least the 2-Vine gets another swing in.
Yeah, he might and might not. Honestly, a water cannon double gash might be enough for that final 65%. But on the other hand, if Ukama stays in a CPG followed by the Thunder Strike, that actually might be enough to take down the Ukama. So both of the tamers with kill potential on the board. It does depend a little bit on those TVs, of course. But generally, kill potential for both sides. Here is who's going to flinch or not. 2-Vine can't swap out, so Mr. Rishi might keep the Ukama.
Oh, I just realized something. Electric doesn't resist water, which means that Grumper takes double damage from water moves. Oh,
really? Electric doesn't resist water? I feel like it would, but if you're saying it, I believe you, Blue.
Yeah, no. I just checked the chart. I was like, okay, what does he resist? No, he takes double damage from water. Rishi, literally, Ukama was so good that it counters anything Barney puts out. That is so disgusting.
Yeah, I mean, Ukama looking good. You banned the Cerneves as we saw Mr. Rishi do. So water cannon does come out and it does go into the Grumper and it is effective. Crystal Bite is neutral damage.
Oh, it doesn't do enough. TP gonna come out here, probably gonna be the Ukama setting up the Thunder Strike. So Rishi going for the Gambit, not going to pay off. So Ukama going to be punished for its insolence, will be going down. The Grumper almost traded his life for that. Rishi was gambling on that kill, but did not come to fruition. But does have hook kick now. And does have that rise.
Yeah, and I wonder if he almost gunned down the 2-Vine, but you know, with the double fire in the back line, you could leave 2-Vine all the way for the end. So I respect that decision for Mr. Rishi, going for the Grumper, who's gonna give him more troubles. But now, Grumper being the slow tem he is, Gialis with hook kick online, Jerkash with mud showers online, and Jerkash usually a speedier tem than both of the 2-Vine and the Grumper. So I'm feeling all the pressure is in Mr. Rishi's hands to output onto Marnefarmer.
Absolute chaos has ensued, especially here for Rishi. Sacked the full Ukama to get here, and the 2-Vine. He's been sitting pretty, but Jerkash now has Mud Shower. Of course, Gayalis now has Hook Kick back, so we might be saying goodbye to this 2-Vine. Of course, the big question is if the Size Munch would be okay in the follow-ups, because I feel I would dare say the Size Munch is fast enough here that it gets a free heat up. It doesn't take double damage from anything either, so it's going to be able to eat a beating, which is kind of what's scaring me. Because Rock Bottom will kill anything Rishi has here.
Yeah, actually, really good observation, Blue. With the Wolfie and Ukama taken care of, Size Munch is looking like he's going to run away with the game. He's effective into Giala's, Jerkash, and the Rise. So Size Munch looking like the key to Marnie's success. But the Pig will be coming out first.
Okay, does come out and it almost kills off 2-Vine, but that's what Mud Shower is for. Actually goes on to the Pig Epic, trusted that the hook kick was going to be enough, so another CPG is thrown out, and this is why you have to finish your food, ladies and gentlemen. The Gayalis takes chunks, and that just means that if Rock Bottom does eventually come out, this Gayalis is going to take a lot of impact. I mean, right now, Rise Swap In is going to do some decent work, especially to Hellfire, but I don't know, it's a bit of a
I think it's time for Size Munch to come out and play. If you're faster, you can even get a Bamboozle off since you slowed him down. Or actually, I don't think these temps have been slowed down. No, I'm sorry, it's Rishi with the raise. So yeah, Size Munch looking safe. Giala's running out of stamina. Jerkash doesn't have any effective damage onto Size Munch. So yeah, this Size Munch looking like easy cleanup for it, especially after one heat up. and there's no Wolfie, so Seismunch Wreck is gonna connect, and after one heat up, I'm pretty sure if that's a max attack or close to max attack Seismunch, it will completely annihilate Mr. Rishi's remaining squad.
Yeah, neither roar is available as neither roar is available as well, which is so problematic. Hellfire does come out, reducing the damage by 30%, but of course heat up, as I mentioned, will be far superior to that. Now Rishi is going to get punished for not having the Rise be on the field for at least one turn, because the Rise does not have roar. It does not have roar this turn because it has not been on the turn for at least one other turn. It is a 2-hold move, and so you can't roar this. Even if you are faster, you cannot roar this, which is the problem here for Rishi. He's basically hoping 30% damage reduction will be more than enough to hold this.
Yeah,
But,
we'll see. I mean, it's a 100% increase in damage from that heat up, and then 30% reduction from that burn. So really good play for Mr. Rishi, but is that enough to hold the fort down? I don't think so. The Seismunch Wreck is gonna do just that, wreck Mr. Rishi's entire game plan, because there's not too much to do, especially with it being bamboozled. Even if it wasn't bamboozled, but going after the pig, trying to make it some juicy bacon there. Fire tornado going into
He
it.
hits again. Oh my
disgusting.
Absolutely disgusting. As you mentioned, this Seismunch is going AWOL, but I'm actually concerned now, because King's Roar, Roar into Hellfire is potentially possible. Roar reduces your attack, bear in mind. So potentially, it's just so hard. This monkey is so off the rails. It's absolutely ridiculous. Gyalis has to pull off a miracle when it comes on the field.
Yeah, but miracle and a little bit more, because nothing is effective. Half from crystal, neutral from melee. Not gonna be enough, especially with the +4 damage times 3 from its initial as it started. So yeah, even at -1 speed, it'll go last, but still, once it goes off, it will be devastating for Mr. Rishi. There's not too much, except you just gotta let it happen. There's nothing, there's no hypno, there's no revitalize.
Hellfire is forced out, of course, from the side of Rishi. It's not over till it's over, baby. Burn applies on both these turns. Rakash overexerts because he knows this is the last prayer. One shower connects with Rakash, setting up a little bit more. Rock bottom goes before Rise. The earth is going to shatter beneath their feet, and the double shutdown is on the field. Ladies and gentlemen, the overexertion is forced on the Seismunch, so that may come back to haunt him, because Gyalis now gets an entry with Crystal Bite, with Sharp Stabs, but I'm not sure if it's enough.
Yeah, so Gyalis most likely wants to take care of Grumper. He has nothing to take care of that 56% remaining on Seismunch. Seismunch simply rests his turn, and then we go at it one more time. Seismunch Wreck to close the remaining 65% on that Gyalis. So I think this is all said and done. GG, but we'll let it play out. So Crystal Bite as much as he could. Of course, it's half effective, but the Earthbreaker, okay, Grumper stealing the show.
Absolutely, doing a lot of damage, but of course that burn at least buying a little bit of time. So now we play the game of, does Hook Kick do 35% damage? I mean, bring out the copy pasta about the old Gyalis, because old Gyalis definitely would have won this one. But unfortunately,
against
he's
the
not
Seismunch, I don't even know. I mean,
who knows?
I don't know. With toe to toe against the Seismunch, close, but man, Hook Kick, close.
If it had a heat up, it would have definitely died there. But regardless, Rock Bottom will shut down the Gyalis, and the monkey shows who's the real Gyalis in town.
And so
Tourney takes that win.
Yeah, so close, very close. Man, the Earthbound getting that +1 defense maybe saved him a bit there. Let's go.
They're in. Yeah, absolutely. Exactly the same bands, exactly the same song and dance, but this time Ishir gets the upper hand in terms of pick and bans, which is very big here. But I mean, as we've seen in their fight, it really boils down to who gets the right read at the right time, and Ukama dying so quickly because he didn't go for the 2-Vine kill was the reason he lost that fight. Again, Rishi, I always say this, but it's a bit of more of a sensory overload. He didn't try to kill 2-Vine and he was punished severely for it. So if he does decide, Marnie is like,
Marnie going
Marnie's,
with the same thing from last game, right? I mean, it worked for him game 2. Let's see if it works for him in game 3. But Mr. Rishi going with the Gialas. And wait, this was the same opening, no?
So Marnie has the same opening, but this time Rishi has a Gialas instead of a Wolfie.
Yes.
Opening. So this is a bit interesting because Marnie basically proposed, hey, I mean, we can do that again and see what happens. But Rishi does not bite. Gialas will, but not him. So Wolfie still a choice, but now allows Marnie to ban that off. But I'm not quite sure if really the Wolfie is the problem here. If well, actually no, Wolfie's definitely worse than Ukama in this scenario because Grumper is so effective against a lot of this field. So we might potentially see. I mean, previously Marnie banned the Kinu, but because Wolfie's now available, he's gonna be losing.
And Wolfie was a huge threat to his Grumper, to his, Wolfie was holding the fort down and literally keeping the 2-Vine in, keeping the Wolfie in, and then doing so much against Seismuch. So solid ban, that might be a key difference there. So Marnefarmer getting rid of Mr. Rishi's Wolfie, so that won't be available for him. But it will be Mr. Rishi keeping the Kinu away from Marnefarmer. So one of them has a Kinu, one of them does not. This could be interesting to see.
Yeah, but the thing is, Marnefarmer doesn't mind that. 2-Vine basically has a better game now. Like, it just has a better game because Wolfie doesn't exist. Seismuch is going to be picked up anyway. And Marnie is definitely not going to... If he picks up Gialas here, I'd be surprised. The Grumper is just so good against Ukama, against the Gialas down the line. I mean, if it basically blocks the Valorant pickup because it's going to be aerobic, but no decides Gialas. I am actually very surprised that you allow that Valorant pickup. I'm concerned here. Marnie lets that Valorant through. We'll see if that was the right choice, if his strategy will pay off here against Rishi as they go into game 3.
Yep, game number 3, the last one of our semifinals. Let's see what these tamers got in store for us. Already, of course, Demoralized kicking off on the Wolfie. Not going to be getting the 2-Vine, of course, from the Determined trait. But man, this pressure, you got the double gash from Gialas, you got the embers from the Rise. It can go into either the 2-Vine or the Wolfie, but let's take a look at the lineup. What is the bigger threat for your squad? I mean, with the Ukama in the back line, I feel like you want to go for the Wolfie. But now since you got a Valorant pickup, those CPGs are really what slice through those Valorants too, so I could honestly see the 2-Vine as well. Maybe equal value, or very close to equal value, and taking down whichever you want.
I mean, I would dare say Wolfie's actually the biggest threat for Rishi. Right now, if you look at his team, his main ways to deal with Seismuch, aka the Ukama and the Rise and the Kinu, they're gonna not have fun, especially if Wolfie's in the field. Kinu less so, but the Wolfie being here means that you can trap the Kinu in, preventing you from making those plays. And of course, CPG does CPG things against the Kinu, so it's a bit of a problem here how Rishi wants to play this.
Yeah, I mean, he could Plague. It's not going to trap in Gialas, but it will trap in the Rays, and then it does Vortex that next turn will be quite devastating for the Rays. He doesn't really need the Rays all that much except for the 2-Vine, but he has other answers. A Gialas hook kick is a lot of answer for 2-Vine. Ukama, surprisingly enough, obviously with those water can aquatic whirlwinds, they do so much against the 2-Vine as well. He would just need the Rays to slow down Marnefarmer's team a little bit more down the road. But yeah, you see, these guys are taking their time in this opening play because it's a rather complicated one. Not too complicated, but it can go either way. Let's see what they ended up going with. So the Rays does back out, maybe not trying to get caught in there. So Kinu to buff up the Gialas, always a solid line of play.
Ooh, double gash connects, and it is CBG coming out. The Rise is going. Oh, sorry, the Kinu's going to be taking that for the Rise, I should mention. But Kinu swapping in. This is what I was worried about. Rishi, if he gets red, is going to get punished. Luckily, because of Grease, prevents any handcuff shenanigans. But Kinu already down to basically, you're now in a position where sacrifice feels kind of okay. Kinu is low.
Yeah, early turn 2 sacrifice, but beautiful read. Marnefarmer saying, there's no way you're keeping this raids. I'm a plague. And you know what, actually... No, yeah, reading it so perfectly. So Kinu does get the buff off. It does have Grease, as you mentioned, Blue, so it's not trapped in here. So could go with the raise, back at it again. But Marnie has a lot of pressure staring this Gialis down, but so does Mr. Rishi. Hook kick online will be quite devastating. Is it enough for 67% on the 2 Vine? It might be.
Also, depending on how Marnefarmer TV spread his Wolfie, he might just get straight up one-shot by a hook kick. But as unfortunately, we haven't been really seeing this Wolfie at maximum speed, so we don't know if it's sped crept by any means, because again, the Rise slowing everything down. But I do have to consider that fact. Does Rishi think he can one-shot the Wolfie? Because if he gets that off, then Wolfie is just out of the equation straight up. The Tornado gonna come out. Kino actually stays in. So Kino with that Tornado might just go down, and it will do so more than enough.
So
Kino
close.
gets Gabbited out of here. Hook kick does come out, and it does not one-shot. So Rishi goes for the gamble, does pay with HP, and the Kino now drop below 50% HP. Rishi, the situation goes bad to worse. Remember, you still have to deal with the side switch in the back, especially with the Gaialis as well. Ukama forced out, but I mean, that's what Plague is for.
Yeah, but of course, that -1 speed, we're seeing it. Giala's rather speedy Tem himself. A double gas should be enough to outspeed the Plague there. And I think it is. I remember seeing it from the previous couple games. I do remember Giala's outspeeding the 3 Prio Plague. I even think the 2 Vine outsped the 3 Prio Plague, so...
Well, it's sped down right now. It's -1 speed. It's going to
exactly, that's what I mean. With that,
that
-1 speed is exactly what I'm considering. So yeah, Wolfie, you know, he does have Plague, but you have to deploy it, and Giala's with that double gas should be able to go first. So Mr. Rishi feeling in control as it stands for this second or third turn.
Yeah, and remember down the line, I sort of mentioned it previously. Rise hasn't come out once yet, so the King's Roar setup will be too late if Rishi waits too long. But of course, there's still the Wolverine and the Ukama and here and the Rise as well. But the Gaialis already at half HP with only +1/+1. Is not going to buy him enough time, or at least too much time. Because if Rishi attempts to double up on this 2 Vine, which is perfectly reasonable, and the Wolfie stays in, it's gonna sting for Rishi here.
Yeah.
And it feels so bad. It feels so bad.
I feel like you
way.
even if he swaps out, just from the threat of how much Plague does to Ukama, I think you just have to click double gash onto Wolfie, even if it swaps out. But we're gonna see if it does. But water cannon onto it, so it could be a good hook kick. But wait a minute.
The hook kick's already been used. It's not available. Exactly. Crystal Bite is forced into this 2 Vine, but decides double gash, so it will hook kick next turn. But that allows Feather Get into the Ukama. Doesn't do as much, actually. Surprised it wasn't a CPG, but of course that would have overexerted. But now, actually, Marnefarmer, the only swap in here that feels okay is the Pig Epic. So, you might see a Pig Epic, but that will... I mean, actually, Rishi now... I would say Rishi has the upper hand here. You can swap in Rise for the Ukama, and you're perfectly fine, especially even if Tornado does come out, because Hook Kick will one-shot this 2 Vine out of the planet. And as I mentioned, you gotta get this Rise in here. You need to get that King's Roar up before this monkey gets out of control or even gets a turn to breathe. Because if he gets that opportunity, you are going to lose simply because you cannot stop it from... you can't negate its heat up anymore.
Yeah, man, that was such a good play. The water cannon on the Wolfie spot looked questionable, but it was just in case the Wolfie swapped out. Imagine catching a size munch, even against a pig. A water cannon does more than a double gash, so really good play that previous turn. And now you have it set up for Tuvon. You can't survive, of course, an aquatic whirlwind. You can't survive a hook kick. So putting that double gash onto the Tuvon slot guarantees the kill potential for this turn. So beautifully played for Mr. Rishi so far. Making Marnie a little bit on the defense here, trying to turn things around, but Mr. Rishi not trying to slow down anytime soon. He's looking pretty strong so far.
Yeah, I mean, just I mean, this. I was just surprised how close to neutrality this game has gone. It went from, oh no, Rishi straight up lost the Kinu too fast to, well, this Tuvon is in the same position where it's probably going to die here, most likely if it stays in. Rise is going to come out, as mentioned. This Pig Epic is not going to have a fun time being one speed down, and that's what the Rise objective is for. Getting that turn, a hook kick comes in, the Tuvon stays in and will be sacrificed. I'm just surprised that Martin decided to stay that in, but Windburst, of course, going to punish the Gaialis for being in as well. But if Size Munch comes out, you confidently swap into Ukama. You say, I dare you to Size Munch wreck, I will aquatic whirlwind you in the face.
Yeah, but with that Ukama swapping out right there, it leaves a rather free heat up, right? Giala's running out of stamina. He just uses hook kick, so that's the strongest technique to use against the Size Munch. All these crystal techniques will be connecting at half amount, right? So this is a heat up play if I ever seen one. I think this is the best bet he has to try to swing things around. But you know, I think just in case the pig went with Beta Burst on Ukama, he didn't want his Ukama to get too low. But speaking of the Blue Devil, here he is one more time, but there Size Munch is with that heat up.
Absolutely, and you've already seen that. That means Rise is slower than the Size Munch. Embers comes out, but it does barely damage. Relax! Tells them to chill out.
Yeah, everyone a little bit more chill. But
oh no!
wow.
Oh no! The bird plays against him. Rishi is probably regretting burning the Size Munch at all.
Yeah, if Marnefarmer did that on purpose, like completely thought it out with the embers as well, that is the biggest 5-head play we've seen so far. The burn waking up the Size Munch. So honestly, double heat up, or you don't have to be too greedy. You can go with the wreck here.
Well, I mean, let's not get ahead of ourselves. Another heat up, you know, just to be sure. Just like John Wick, double tap.
Another one? You think so?
Yeah, I mean, you know,
one.
Like, Rishi literally can't do anything. That Embers ruined his game plan. I'm sure Rishi is kicking himself, God, why didn't I just, you know, just Embers the pig instead? Because that is so bad. The guy else is forcibly swapped in here, as well as the Rise. Rise cannot afford to die here. Ukama and Rise having to be a dynamic duo to at least contain this monkey monster. Uppercut does come out. Gaialis will be sacked for that. No, it lives! The protector buff applies. The Stonewall, though, traded. But this means that the monkey will get punished at least somewhat, at least by a sharp stabs or a hook kick by Gaialis into maybe a hyperkinetic strike. Rishi has a chance to make this monkey bleed, and you know what they say, if you can make God bleed, people will cease to believe in him.
I guess so, for sure. But yeah, protecting the Ukama from that uppercut there, so he needs the Ukama. That is the strongest answer. Without any Wolfie, that is clearly his best answer to deal with this Size Munch. So good job, Mr. Rishi, but Marnefarmer almost taking down Gialis. But you know, Pigapec with something like a tornado could clean up that remaining 6% HP. And then Size Munch not going to be taking a whole lot from this Volar, and that's is not really set up so far. But Gialis swap out the Rays coming in to lower the speed of both of these Tems.
Yeah, just Rise comes in as expected, protects the Gaialis from potential harm, understands that Size Munch Wreck may not be faster. In fact, calling the bluff that Size Munch Wreck isn't even going to be played at all, but in fact it will be! Rock Bar will be thrown out this Rise on the will be crushed in but survives, which allows for a King's Roar to be available. Feather Gatling going to be thrown out as well. This Size Munch takes very little damage due to that Earthbound with +3 defense as well. But HKS at least can do somewhat a form of damage. In the Rise, King's Roar is too slow.
Yeah, maybe I was getting used to those +4 Seismunch Wreck from God of Despair earlier, but man, I did not expect this raise to live this. So high defense raise this is. So well done surviving it, swapping the Giaz for the raise, knowing it would survive at a +2. So you know what, Blue, maybe that second heat up might have been a bit necessary just to close it out all out, right? Even because the uppercut didn't get the kill there, but Gialis closing the chapter on the raise, and Noxious Bomb is not going to be doing a whole lot here.
It's anaerobic, that is why. Oh, I see. I was going to say, Rishi, if that's aerobic, he has a shot here, but much less so. Now that this is so bad. This Seismunch is such a problem. Because this is anaerobic, this Vulnerant is helpless to help.
Yeah, there's not too much it does. I mean, it's at +3 defense. That anaerobic Hyperkinetic's not going to be doing anything, so he just has Feather Gatlings to try to deal with it. But that's +3 defense, as we said, so it should be okay. No. This Yukama, the biggest answer, but it might be checked right here. A Crystal Bite uppercut or even a dim max should definitely be enough to clean up the Yukama. If Yukama drops down, Marnefarmer one more time with the Seismunch sweep, it should be pretty clear cut. But Yukama going with the Crystal Bite. Okay,
does get water cannon off. Actually, he's ignoring the Seismunch. I'm so concerned. He's going for the Gatling onto the Gialis as well, but you're allowing the Seismunch to roll free. Rishi, I don't know what the plan is, but surely the Seismunch have to die first. The Gialis doesn't even get picked off here. Now, I think Rishi is a bit defeated in spirit, just not even trying to kill the Seismunch anymore.
Yeah, and that is the biggest threat. Maybe just trying to let it run out of stamina, but Mr. Rishi, as you said, maybe perhaps a bit defeated. Game number 1, none other than two-time champions. As I said before, Dave Goblino winning 2 crowns to his name. Marnefarmer as well, 2 crowns to his name. One of these guys, as I said, will be the second ever 3-time champion. Will it be Dave? Will it be Marnefarmer? These guys are going to go at it, giving it their all. So let's just jump right into it, into the picks and bans.
Yeah, Marnefarmer. Once again, I mentioned, right, this Naga Issei might be ban bait, but Dave, I mean, he's been in this song and dance before. If Naga Issei is ban bait, then he'll most likely attempt to call Marnie's bluff. I mean, that is usually the name of the game, but he might bite. Ooh, he might bite.
Maybe biting. Maybe biting.
Who knows? Maybe Marnie actually is a really ferocious Naga Issei, and I'm grossly underestimating it. But
well, yeah.
Again, as far as we've recently seen, at least Naga Issei has not been as potent as just being banned in general, right? He's being banned as much as Gialis would be back in the day, but his effectivity is just not on the same level.
Yeah, so he's eyeing it down, eyeing the Seismunch. I mean, both the Nagas and the Seismunch are really strong against his double fire that Dave has. So going with just the overall safest pick, it will be the Kinu ban.
Yeah. Wolfie comes in. Now, a bit interesting here, because I'm not sure how Marnie wants to open this, but yeah, I mean, as mentioned, Dave calls Marnie's bluff. Naga Issei is allowed through, will Marnie pick it up? Well, I mean, we'll see, right? Kinu being removed immediately as well is going to be proving difficult, because now Wolfie opened, with the cold open rather. You can also pair this now with the mix, and I really like the mix Wolfie opening, especially against these sort of crystal opponents, because you just have so much variety in the first and second turns as well.
Yeah, so Dave will have the gold side, so he does have the counter pick. So what does Marnie want to set up to just try to be reasonably good against anything Dave can pick up? His Kinu is eliminated, so going with the Nagais, potentially the Gialis. You know, Nagai's Grumper usually the pairing, but Grumper not too effective into Dave's team. Of course, Mud Shower is good against the crystals and the fires, but a lot of damage output he can receive. The 2-Vine doesn't seem the worst, but of course into that double fire slash that crystal pressure 2 from the mix. Okay, we have not seen this opening in this entire tournament. Let's see how it goes down. The Nagais and the pig opening. Very cool.
That is one brave setup. I will be honest. Naga Issei Pig Epic. I mean, I said, you know, put your money where your mouth is, and here's Naga Issei opening for Marnie. He says, I'm not afraid. I'll make you regret not banning Naga Issei, and we'll see how it goes. We'll definitely see how it goes.
Yeah, so he does pick up the Vulnerage for those Noxious Bomb onto that Naga spot. So let's see these second bans here. So Marnefarmer has the options to take care of more threats against his Nagais. He has the option. He doesn't have any neutral Tems that we're used to seeing, like the Move Flank, like the Scunch. The Size Munch. Oh wait, the Size Munch already ate the ban, so that is out of the picture.
Yeah, removing the Size Munch effectively means that Marnie will be playing for a more special attack directive, and Dave, he does have an aerobic Bullrun, so no defensive setup there, but he's perfectly fine playing away from a fire squad. Of course, Rise from the last pick here, I mean, I doubt. Actually, no, sorry, there's no Nagi Issei. Most likely Drakash, actually. Rise is just insanity, I would say, until you deal with Naga Issei, but that's entirely up to how Marnie decides to play this.
Yeah, see, and we see Dave, he's been favoring going into the Rise, so yeah, throwing his game plan a little bit out the door there. You don't want to, you know, turbo coral your own opponent's Tems. But Marnefarmer going with the solid Wolfie, really good against pretty much everything. Of course, the Wolfie, the Vola doesn't like eating any of its attacks. And Marnie 2-Vine seems to pair well with Nagais as well. 2-Vine generally slower in speed, making it faster in a Deceit Aura environment. So Dave, taking your advice, Blue, not trying to speed up Marnefarmer's Tem, might be going for Drakash, but however, if he deals with Nagais, race might be better. But this is it, game number 1 of our finals. Let's go. Everything we did, 5 rounds of Swiss, two best of 3 games, quarterfinals and semifinals, and we find ourselves right here in this very moment. It is finals time. Dave Goblino going, fighting head to head against Marnefarmer. Let's jump right into that opening play.
Absolutely, let's get this underway. Marnie with the Naga Issei Pig Epic. We'll see how this opening will go. Of course, Dave Goblino, the first time any player has allowed Marnie access to this Naga Issei, it has been banned consistently up until this point. Will Dave have sprung open a trap, or will Marnie be able to use the Naga Issei at its maximum capacity? We'll have to see. Both players thinking very carefully about their next options. In fact, looks like Dave has yet to decide as well.
Yeah, so I mean, keeping it rather straightforward. Wolfie Plague plus a Voldaren Noxious Bomb does quite the amount of damage onto Nagas here. However, the Pig most likely slower, of course, than the Plague. It does have a Bamboozle to try to keep it more protected from either that Noxious Bomb. You know, Plague being 3 power, obviously gonna go last, so we'll protect it from at least a Noxious Bomb. But you know, this Naga here doesn't have too much pressure, so I wouldn't be surprised if it would be swapped out. Because maybe, I don't know if he's running Madness buff, because he can go for a Madness buff. But even the craziest, you know, a Nagai's Fury or a Beta Burst slash Psy Surge is not going to be doing a whole lot into Dave's squad right now with these two on the board.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I mean, turn one, taking their time, really thinking about potential swap outs, or with the C aura turns, you have to think a little bit more carefully. Usually, your plague going first, but now you flip the script on that. So the C aura is revealed there, of course. Let's see how it plays out. But Nagaz does not want to hang out a bit more, so Gialis will replace him.
Yeah, Windburst comes out here, damaging the Wolfie a little bit. Noxious Bomb going to be thrown out as well, just to do some decent damage onto the Gialis, but nothing more than that. The trade favors Marnie there, until the Wolfie comes in with the Plague, of course. The damage, significant. So, now Dust Vortex, of course, available, but that depends if Marnie's Gialis is faster or slower in this position against Dave's Wolfie. But we've seen Dave's Wolfie basically go last a lot of the time, so it might not be bolstered up at all.
And you know what? We have seen it. I do think Gialis will outspeed the Dust Vortex from the Wolfie. It won't outspeed the Plague, but the Plague is not what's going to kill the Gialis, so it's actually Marnefarmer with the hook kick pressure on the Wolfie this turn too. And this anaerobic bowling for Dave might be coming in clutch. The only thing that's getting in its way will be that 2-vine in the back. But as it stands, Wolfie does not want to be here. We saw how much a hook kick did to Dave's Wolfie before. At 75%, I'm almost 99% certain it will be brought down all the way down from that hook kick. So Dave may be thinking of swapping into Kinu perhaps, just to buff up the Volrin. It will be a really good answer against the Nagaz, and against the Wolfie, since it doesn't eat a lot of damage from the Wolfie.
Yeah. So the Gialis, the Wolfie swap out may be possible here. What I'm concerned about is if this Naga Issei's not going to have a partner fairly soon, just because I think I saw Marnie's Temps are actually pretty decently sped up in terms of spread, so I don't know how much I like the Naga Issei being less focused, but regardless, Dave will swap out the Wolfie for the Gialis just so it can tank that hook kick down a size. Hook kick does come out, does only 33% damage, but that's quite a lot because Toxic Plume is gonna be so good here. Attack down on the pig as well. That's quite big because if it does have Oshidashi, that's gonna suck. So though, the raising defenses of that Gialis, but what is more permanent here is the fact that that Gialis is now attack down.
Yeah, and that's huge at 33% reduction in attack. He does have War Drum, so trying to increase just a tad. But man, solid play for Dave Goblino. It did give him that free Stonewall, so he does have the defensive going its way despite not having a Kinu. So we'll see how much that actually does get done. But yeah, that was huge. Lowering the attack on Giaz, that's pretty much the #1 target you want to do it on Marnie's team. So well done for Dave. Yeah, quite a little bit of a slower paced game here. I know it's only turn 3, but no one really has too much kill potential. I mean, I guess Marnefarmer with a Crystal Bite, Windburst / Tornado from the pig might close it out for the Gialis.
This is... Oh, they've also out the Volrin. I was going to say, perhaps just trying to deal some decent damage onto that position would be fine. But Wolfie comes in, Crystal Bite will come in, reading very well Dave, the movements of Marnie here. Windburst comes out as well, doing some decent damage on the Gialis. But as I mentioned, VV is available. Attack down is quite potent on this Gialis already on the side of Marnie. And we might, I dare say as well, we might just see a Volrin come back in with the Gialis coming out, and then Toxic Plume down the line as well. That is also a possibility.
Yeah, another one. A -2 attack Gialis would be way too much to try to come back from. But we'll see. I mean, Wolfie, he just used Crystal Bite, so Hook Kick is online. So Wolfie, one more time, does not want to be here. So as you said, Blue, Wolfie most likely going to be becoming a Voldaren for the second time. Or actually, no, it was a Gialaz last time, but it will be replaced by the Voldaren. Seems like the appropriate swap, as well as perhaps a Kinu, but no, everything stays in.
Yeah, Sharp Stabs get thrown out here to the Gialaz, and Sharp Stabs traded in kind, but because the Wolfie stays in, the Plague will connect, and that will punish the Gialaz. So Marnie loses this slow push for attrition here, and Gialaz lives on the side of Dave, which is even bigger of a victory there.
Yeah, definitely thinking that beta burst. And you know, we haven't seen any tornadoes from the pigs, so maybe not doing tornado. What we have seen is, I believe we saw bamboozle, we saw the wind burst, we saw the stone wall, but we haven't seen that fourth move, unless I'm crazy. It's either stone or it's either sharp rain, Ashi Dashi, tornado. We haven't seen that. Oh, relax. Very true. So relax was that last move. Okay, so not even running tornado, sharp rain, Ashi Dashi.
Yeah, this Pig Epic is a very good staple, actually. I mean, again, a Naga Issei swap here, I wouldn't mind. In fact, that is the case. This Naga Issei very solid, and does have to bring out the best it can. The Gialaz can't stay in, obviously, but that's what the Voldaren is for. Wolfie just being such a menace. Plague is gonna do so much to this Naga Issei that it's going to suck. Beta Burst's gonna be flying out first, though, and Gialaz did in fact stay in, so forcing the Naga Issei to target the Gialaz first is always a solid win. And Bamboozle goes before the Wolfie, of course, because the Wolfie is too fast. Plague is thrown out, but the Naga Issei is safe. And this is the power of Pig Epic in this situation. But of course, not the Voldaren is here, it's anaerobic. It's actually very, very easily going to tank what Naga Issei can throw at it. And Toxic Plume is definitely no slouch as well to impact their HP pools.
Yeah, very true. I mean, Toxic Plume, you don't even need it right now. I feel like just solid back-to-back Noxious Bomb should be enough. And as you noted, as you just said, Blue, that special defense +2 is gonna be holding it firm, holding it down for Voldaren, keeping his HP rather high comparatively. So that anaerobic bird, a strong counter against his Nagais. And we will see. I mean, Wolfie trying to catch the Plague there, but Side Surge does get deployed, trying to most likely gun down this Wolfie. 56% all the way down to 20, so solid 36%. And the Wind Burst to close it out on the Wolfie. Well played for Marnie that turn.
Absolutely devastating. The Noxious Bomb connects, drops the Naga Issei below half HP, but Big Epic's Bamboozle gonna prevent this Voldaren from being able to push for that kill. But of course, now that the Kinu is here, can use Beta Burst to break that Bamboozle, or at least pierce through that Bamboozle.
Yeah, so I mean, fortunately for Marnefarmer, he does have an answer against that Voldaren, which will be the 2-Vine. There's nothing the Voldaren could do to really injure the 2-Vine, and then back to back either Feather Gatling CPG from the 2-Vine will eventually get the better of the Voldaren, so he just has to clean up the Jerkash, and I think Marnie will be in the clear. And you know, I'm actually very surprised this game. You know, we saw Dave Goblino in the past couple top 8 games use Kinu very beautifully and just use it period, in and out, in and out. We haven't seen it at all from Dave this entire game, surprising enough. There's no Kinu buff on any of his Tems.
Yeah, Beta Burst throws out, but the 2-Vine is going to be fine. This Naga Issei with that what's that called? Strange Vest, definitely going to be a menace. But this is the 2-Vine comes out, the Gialaz gone and the Wolfie gone. The Jerkash is the best swap in here, but Marnie could just potentially play roundabout here. The only downside is this Voldaren being able to throw out the Toxic Plume, perhaps. But Jerkash could be coming in actually on the Voldaren spot. Doesn't expect the Kinu to get shot. But the
and Blue, is it already going in for you? I feel like I'm stuck. There's the Jerkash already made swaps?
None No massive action so far. Fortunately, while Plus gets back into the game.
And Blue, thank you for keeping us in the loop. We are back in it. And let's see what we missed out. It doesn't seem like too much, so... Oh, wait a minute. Ended up getting Protector buff on the Drakash, as you said. So it was the Drakash for the Volrend, and then Kinu swap into that. Very cool. But wait, how did Drakash get +2? Was that a Stonewall instead of a Kinu Protector buff?
The Drakash got Stonewalled. Yes,
Okay.
The Drakash got Stonewalled to get buffed. Drakash, speaking of which, swapping in. Actually, now I'm kind of behind. Actually, I think. Oh no, it's all good. It's all good. I'm still here. 2 Vine gonna be swapped in. Of course, Noxious Bomb gonna be thrown out as well. Gonna do okay damage on the Pig Epic, but this is gonna be a battle of attrition, and because of the fact that because of the fact that Dave Goblino is playing the roundabout so well, Marnie has just given up on trying to end it quickly, and he's like, you know what? I'll just stonewall everything, and I'll see what you can do about it. Because again, with that 10 advantage, of course, all he has to do is sit and wait, and a victory should come.
Yeah, and that's insane. Stonewall indeed. That's 2 Stonewalls onto the 2 Vine. That's +4 defense, +2 special defense. If he is able to take care of this Drakash somehow, of course, the best answer will be that Nagai's Fury from the Naga. That would be enough. The 2 Vine should carry him to success, but a little easier said than done against Dave Goblino, such a great competitor. And Drakash currently has the pressure. 2 Vine at only +2 special defense. So Wolfie coming out, maybe just trying to eat a Hellfire to the face to see how much it's gonna do.
Yeah,
Okay.
Wolfie comes out, so Hellfire going to connect, but this 2 Vine is going to feel that, and in fact, does a lot of solid work. Toxic Plume as well, gonna pop off, but Wolfie avoids all the AoE attacks. CPG gonna be thrown out finally on the Volrend, and because defenses aren't raised on this Volrend, only way you do damage to this Volrend is in fact this 2 Vine. Actually, speaking of which, if 2 Vine dies here, Volrend is pretty indestructible.
Yeah, Volrend definitely wins it. And did you just see that damage? A CPG barely did anything. I know it's at +1 defense, but still, I expected a bit more damage. Maybe 2 Vine a bit more tankier than we're used to seeing. But man, that's going to take at least 4 to 5 more CPGs to get the job done. So this Volrend for Dave Goblino might just completely carry him.
Yeah, the swap in here. Once again, Kinu coming out, Drakash. It looks like actually trying to buff up Drakash to the point where it's very strong. And it's going to work out here because 2-1 is going to get picked off here for the side of Marnefarmer. And actually, Dave now evens out the playing field. Dust Vortex going to connect with Drakash, but only drops it to just above half HP. And with all those buffs, actually giving it some extra time. Now, Drakash can swap off for Volrend here, which is the problem. Now, Marnie has no way to actually pose a threat big enough that Kinu is afraid. And Madness buff is insanity right now on the Naga Issei. It's dropped to below 50 HP. 50% HP, sorry.
Yeah, and as we said, you take care of 2 Vine. Marnie had to take care of Drakash. Dave Goblino had to take care of 2 Vine, and it looks like Dave Goblino getting the better of that trades and took care of the 2 Vines. So Volrend looking like the sweeper Dave needs to get a victory here in game 1. I don't see Wolfie's special attack, Pig is special attack, and Naga Issei is as well special attack, and that is a maxed out special defense +5. Yeah, there's not too much I think that Marnie can do to really deal with this Volrend.
Yeah.
But we will see.
Volrend is swapped in for the attack, and Naga Issei's Fury is played here, and this is what I'm afraid of. Look at that damage! That was incredibly little on the Volrend, and Volrend just says, haha, healing go burr. Plague connects. It does 3% damage. This Volrend is so tanky.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we've been saying, is this Volrend getting out of hand. You took care of the only physical threats on Marnie's team, which was the Gialis, which was the 2 Vine. And that is it. I think Dave Goblino, within the next couple turns, 3 to 4 turns, should be closing this out. Noxious Bomb either onto the Naga spot, actually into anything. I mean, back-to-back Noxious Bombs should be enough. The pig isn't on the board, so no Bamboozle here. And we saw how much one Noxious Bomb did. That was over 50%, so if that connects onto Naga there, it will be closing it out. But of course, trying to save it for a little bit later. It will be eaten up by the pig. Oh! Wait a minute. Did the Voldrin actually need it?
I mean, gotta cover your bases. If Naga Issei is running a scratch, you know, you never know.
Yeah,
Blake's
I
gonna be
guess
thrown
so.
over here on the Protector Kinu, just securing it, trapping it in, but I'm not sure if that matters at all in this situation. Jakash going to be watching in the sidelines with some popcorn as the Protector Kinu and the Volren are incredibly tough to kill.
Yeah, making matters worse, even if you had some physical pressure like Giala's, like Tuvine at +3 defense, there's nothing you can do. So Dave Goblino just pouring a little salt on that wound there. But yeah, I mean, pig can go back-to-back Bamboozles perhaps, but only slowing down the inevitable with this Voldrin carry.
Yeah, Beta Burst thrown out here. The Kinu now starting to do some chip damage. He knows that if he manages to kill the pig epic with a Toxic Plume, he's going to be effective. Unfortunately,
Oh,
FC
wait a
still
minute.
drops, and overexertion comes out, but don't get too fooled. Kinu can overexert to heal the Voldrin, and you are back to where you were about 3 turns ago, which is a Voldrin at roughly 70% HP.
Yeah, so actually that was about the most damage anything can do to Dave Goblino's Voldrin there. Solid 30% onto the Voldrin from that Fainted Curse proccing after killing the pig. A little bit, you know, didn't calculate exactly right. Wanted just a poison tick to end up the pig's life there. But either way, at 50%, you got perhaps another Revitalize coming this turn.
Yeah. Beta Burst comes out, does a little bit of damage, again, does decent, but that's not the kind of numbers you want to see, especially when you get 25% back and you do 3% with a Volt. Oh, actually, Wolfie does 5% correction.
So yeah, total of 15% from both of those attack, and Revitalize heals for 25, so a net positive for Dave Goblino. So yeah, this Voldrin's looking good. Maybe the game plan is to gun down the Protector Kinu a bit better. I think that would have been, you know, neutral damage onto the Kinu there, and then Plague just wrapping it up. But yeah, Marnefarmer says enough is enough, Blue. So I'm gonna go hop over on Marnefarmer's side. Dave Goblino up one game away from crowning himself the second ever 3-time champion. But we saw this in game in the semifinals. Marnefarmer going with the 2-0 run to close the book on Mr. Rishi. So he's not, you know, you can't ever count out Marnefarmer.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it might just be another reverse sweep. You never know. But this is the finals, and this is Dave Goblino. He's not one to let games slip away from him. He in fact sometimes just seals the deal in the second game. And once again, Dave, I mean, I said this before, but if you can make God bleed, people will cease to believe in him. And Dave refuses to believe that this Naga Issei is actually what Marnie wants to put on his team.
Yeah, and just going with the safe ban again, and maybe just the enabler, right? That Kinu doing so much for Marnefarmer in the past. So does decide to get the first ban, get the Kinu out the way immediately, and we'll see how it works out for Dave. But Marnie going with the same game plan, getting rid of the Surnave as it is really strong against his lineup. But let's see, Marnefarmer is on the gold side, so does get those counter picks. Let's see how he uses that.
Absolutely. Still, Marnie has to be very careful what has to bring to the table here. He does not, like, yes, Kinu got banned, but he does not have to pick. No, he goes for it. He goes for it. Ooh, that is. Ooh. Okay.
Well, hey, you know, he picked it up, obviously has something in mind. Let's see if he's able to use it. But Dave goes with the same answer he did last game with the
Yeah,
Naga
exactly.
He goes with the Wolfie and that heavy anaerobic Volrin that carried him to victory
Yeah.
game 1. So
Yeah.
picking that, we'll see if it ends up playing out the same. But Marnefarmer knows how it ended up going, so let's see if he makes some adjustments. What is a good counter? I'm thinking 2-Vine. 2-Vine takes neutral damage from those Dust Vortex. It does a handful.
Yeah.
Oh, but the pig.
Yeah. This is the exact same opening. Dave says, "Okay, you want to do the same thing?" He's calling out Marnie, and Marnie says, "No, I refuse." He stands his ground, and Marnie says, "This is the opening I want, and we'll die on this hill," quite literally, because this is match point. And Marnie did have 2-1 previously. The reason why it was unable to do so was because the Drakash was just fired anyway to oblivion. But now Drakash is gone. But he allows Mix and Kinu to be a thing. And so is that Rise. I mean, Mix is so solid as well, especially with that C spikes. I mean, we'll just have to see what Dave decides to go about with this. Naga Issei... Side was actually let through here for Dave Goblino, so totally different here. Marty claims that the Drakash was the problem, so removes that. And I actually really like this ban from Marnie. It was literally the problem. If 2-Vine didn't die, this Wolverine wouldn't have had such a obnoxious field of defense. So now has that option to deal with it. And of course, Dave cannot pick up Rise here. Just way too risky. The fact that Naga Issei exists is already such a problem. So Mix is forced here. But Marty...
And looks like Seismunch wouldn't be the worst, right? 2 Crystal Tems. The Wolfie takes damage from those uppercuts. Grumper okay with the Mud Showers. You're not going to get too much value since it is an anaerobic bird, so those Thunder Strikes not going to be as impactful as it would otherwise. But Marnefarmer going with his gut and will pick up the Grumper, leaving the Seismunch on the bench. Let's see how it plays out. This is game number 2 of our finals. Marnefarmer going against Dave Goblino. And if it's anything like we saw in game number 1, Nagais went with a turn 1 swap out. Maybe feeling the pressure here. But you know, funny enough, usually orange side has a bit of the pressure. So if he swaps out, he's kind of just giving the tempo over to Dave, at least for the early game.
Yeah, but the problem is, do you really want to take a Plague and Noxious Bomb to the face? I mean, the answer is no most of the time, right? So
yeah. And it's definitely, it would just be the Plague, because Pig will be able to get a Bamboozle. The Noxious Bomb will break it, and then Plague going last, since it is that 3 prio, that's going to be huge damage. So it's understandable why Marnie does want to make that swap out.
Yeah, so... The thing is that the Plague should most likely do more damage than a Noxious Bomb because because Marnie has Strange Vest on. I believe Naga Issei actually has more special defense than defense.
Yeah, yes, and I think it's for the Madness buff too, so you get +2 special defense, essentially +2 defense with the Strange Vest. So yeah, that special attacking Plague will be huge against it. But yeah, swaps in 2-Vine there.
The Big Gatling gonna be thrown out, does half damage, barely anything on this 2-Vine, and the Plague, look at that, and it's trapped! Oh my god, this is history repeating itself. If 2-Vine gets Dust Vortex right now, it just dies.
Well, remember, it's neutral. It's neutral damage from the Earth technique, so I don't know. It might be close, but I don't know if it's gonna die. Maybe a double up though. A double up for sure. Something like a Plume for that 12.5% poison, and then the DV. But I think we just saw how much damage the Plague did. I feel like it's going to be similar in damage. Of course, Dust Vortex does more in terms of actual damage, but it's still neutral. So, maybe save the DV for the next swap out. Actually, no, there's nothing else that he could save it for.
Yeah, and the Pig Epic is quite slow because we saw previously that the Bamboozle went off while Nagaise was on the field before either Volrend or Wolfie, so we kind of know that this pig is too slow to prevent this disaster with a Bamboozle. This is such a struggle.
And especially if Wolfie goes for a Plague again, that definitely outspeeds the pig, so he could have a chance with the Dust Vortex being normal prio. But yeah, I think Dave Goblino has the pressure again. Of course, Feather Gatling CPG does a handful onto the Volrend, but let's see, is the Dust Vortex enough? Very close, very close.
Yep, to secure that kill. There you go. Shuts down the 2-1, and this is a repeat. Now there's no physical attack. Where's the damage going to come from? Well, the Grumper. Actually, never mind. The Grumper's still alive, so it's not all for naught. Barney has a backup plan. He has a contingency, but that 2-line swapping in.
No, Blue, you're absolutely right. The only physical pressure on Marnie's team has just been removed from the game. Nagaise's special attack, Pigapek's special attack, Wolfie and Grumper are both special attacks, so if this Volrend is able to keep setting up like it always knows to do, you know, Noxious Bomb, Plumes back to back, special defense headed its way slowly but surely into that max range. Already looking a bit dire situation for Marnefarmer, just thinking a couple turns into the future.
I mean, the Grumper is nice and all. It's gonna do the most damage out of everything Marnie has, but what can it really do when the Volrend can make his anaerobic defenses go up and you have Revit available, and on top of that, you still have Gaialis and Mix. I mean, if Mix gets for some reason, if Mix gets into Puppet Master range, he just stands behind the Volrend. You have Sea Spikes to deal with Grumper, on top of Feathered Gatling, on top of potential Toxic Plume as well. The Nagaise doesn't like fighting Mix. This is just, the 2-line was the key here for Marnie, at least to put some pressure on the Volrend, but it's dead. I don't know what Marnie can really put. He has to kill the Volrend before he gets set up. I think that's the plan here.
That's exactly what he has to do.
If it gets the +5 special defense before Marnie drops it below 30% HP, it is gonna be such a steep hill to climb. And as I mentioned, Marnie decided to open with Nagaise and Pig Epic, and he's going to die on this hill if he does not find a way.
Alright, so going back to that trusty opener Marnefarmer is such a fan of. Maybe time for a good madness buff, but we're going back to turn 1 here. A Noxious Bomb, Plague staring down this Nagaise. Bamboozle will protect it from the Noxious Bomb, but that heavy nature technique coming its way. So Nagas just came on the board. If it's anything like turn 1, is he going through the exit door this time again? It looks like Dave is putting Marnie in a bit of a corner.
Yeah.
Unless of course a size surge or anything could do that remaining 50% on Wolfie so you don't get the Plague going. But with no madness buff on the Naga just yet, I don't think it's possible. If this pig did indeed have Ashi Dashi, that's exactly what Marnie needs, a Ashi Dashi into the Wolfie.
Yeah, but the Pig Epic, this is a little. Dave, he madness buff, so again, fighting fire with some damage. Marnie is opening with this Gambit. Bamboozle will come out first, so either Plague or Noxious Bomb will go first. Noxious Bombs come out, so Plague is gonna come out. We'll see how much damage this does, because this traps the Nagaise. It knocks down! Nagaise is gone! He's just gone, and Discord died again.
Oh my goodness.
Regardless, the Nagaise is shut down. Dave says, sit down!
Yeah,
Your Nagaise, nothing.
We knew it was gonna hurt, but man, a little bit too much of a sting.